Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Hi, this is Nick Gallery, and welcome to Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered. Tonight I'm speaking with Brion Hurley, former punter and kicker from the Iowa Hawkeyes. Welcome to the show, Brion.
Thanks. How's it going?
Going well. You're the co-host, but we decided to start out and interview each other. So we figured we'd tell our stories first, and then we'd get to some other guests. So welcome.
Thank you.
Curious to hear about your story through high school. I know you were a soccer player, you were a kicker. Kind of tell me about how everything started in sports and where you excelled and what you liked and kind of how that got going.
Thanks. So I started playing soccer pretty early, and then played football, but it was more like flag football. We didn't have tackle football in Iowa City till junior high. I liked playing football. I was decent at I was kind of quick when I was in grade school, but so I think I did well in soccer. And then then it's just practice kicking a lot. And then I'll talk about my dad's connection with the football team, but he kind of got me into kicking a little bit. But this is like fourth, fifth grade, and there's no real structure for kicking a football anywhere till junior high. So then I played baseball and basketball, pretty much as many sports as I could. Then in junior high, I approached the coach and I asked if we could kick. He's like, "We can't do that at this league. This level of play, there's no snapping and holding. That's too complicated." So I just did kickoffs, and then I played, safety or wide receiver. But everyone was starting to catch up and go through puberty. So I was quickly falling behind in my athletic skills. But then we played in my 8th grade year, we played Bettendorf, and they did snapping and holding, and they kicked an extra point. I was like, hey, they can pull it off. We can probably figure out how to do this too, so we can try some extra points. So, or maybe it was 7th grade. So anyways, by 8th grade, I got them to at least try and practice some extra points. I think even tried to do a field goal in a game, but it just got butchered and we just never practiced it. So it never really I think I made half of them. And we were using college upright, and it wasn't even college uprights. It was, I think it was even narrower than college upright somehow on our junior high field. So I was trying to make kicks, and it was I made maybe half of the extra points that we tried, and we didn't try it all the time. So that got me started into kicking a little bit. And then I think as I got older and I took a while to grow, I realized I wasn't going to play many other positions. I could catch the ball okay, but I was getting further behind athletically. So I was I need to just focus on kicking. And I was practicing a lot on it. I enjoyed it. So that's where I got started in football.
Yeah, got it. Is that back when you were kicking off a block, a 2-inch block?
Yep. Yeah, all through high school, it was off a block. They just right a couple years before graduated high school, they changed that in college where they got rid of the tees. So that was something I knew was coming up and I had to start adjusting to. So you could use a 2-inch block in high school. I think my senior year, I went down to a 1-inch block to try to make that transition a little easier. Then in college, you couldn't use any tees at all. But yeah, it was still allowed in high school.
Gotcha. And how your transition from soccer to being a football kicker, how difficult was that? Yes, I think there's a thought people are like, oh, I can play soccer, I can kick field goals. I mean, obviously there's a pressure situation of doing that in a game with, time constraints and, people rushing and kind of all that stuff. But is it relatively a simple transition, or how difficult was that?
Not too difficult because I think I started really early. I think it was 5th grade, so I was 10, and I was I knew I'd seen NFL games or college games. I was like, I knew I could do that, and just started practicing it. So for me, it wasn't a transition hardly at all. Most of the kickers were former soccer players. I like to say I was a football player that also was a kicker. Wasn't someone they took off the soccer team like they do most of the time. So I was intending to be like a receiver or play a position, but just was not athletically there. And this seemed to fit my mindset and my attitude and my approach a little bit better. As we talked about with your interview, like you were more like a football player who happened to punt. And so I was like, I was a football player, but it suited me better to be a kicker. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. You went to a large high school. So when you say you like your athletic prowess wasn't, you were getting passed up athletically, you think that was just part of being a large high school, or do because I don't remember you being that bad of an athlete. I always, I thought you were actually
okay. Yeah.
athletic.
I think what helped is that I had a late growth spurt. So I think right before my junior year, I went through my growth spurt. So then I kind of shot up, but I was uncoordinated. I always felt like I was like a couple years behind everyone else in their, like, they grew and started getting faster and stronger naturally. And so I had to keep up with that. So I think I was doing okay. But then when I shot up, I was like trying to get into my body a little bit. I think that's partly why I got some attention, because they could see that I was really undersized weight wise, that I could grow into my body a little bit. So I was getting tall but really skinny still. So yeah, I think just trying to compete with people that were a little more developed than me kept me up a little bit with athleticism, but I wasn't that fast. And I did a little receiver, but I could catch the ball pretty well, just practicing punting and stuff. But I wasn't going to go very far if I caught it. So then playing soccer, and I played a little basketball still. But yeah, I'd say that the larger school does, hinder your ability to play. You have to be pretty good because you're competing with a lot more kids. We had 300 in our graduating class, I think 270, maybe about 300 kids, and 1,200 in the school, something like that. So yeah, the highest class for Iowa high school, 4A.
And so your school is really competitive as far in most sports, correct? Your high
Yeah.
school?
The football was okay back then. Unfortunately, by the time they got really good, I'd already graduated. And so that was kind of interesting because I felt like I was a couple years too early for my grade, in terms of like what I was trying to do and train for, and what the rest of my teammates were doing, and what the weight program was at the time. So when I was probably a junior, senior, they started a serious weight program. And it coincided with Tim Dwight going to high school. I don't know how connected that was or not, but they started with the younger class. And so the year after I graduated high school, they got really good. And then the year after that, I think they won the state. And then they've been pretty strong ever since. But we made the playoffs one year and didn't make it my senior year. I think we were like 5-4. And so, but I could see like, hey, I'm putting in a lot of work, and I don't see all my other teammates here in the summer. And I saw the freshmen and sophomores all in a program, and they were weight training and doing plyometrics. And I was kind of like, darn, where is the rest of my teammates here?
Right.
So we were okay, but yeah, it was before the program got really good at City High. So, but you could see that the younger group was doing all the right things, and they were really good for many years because they were ahead of the game on terms of like developing the players physically.
Yeah, I'm sure, right, with strength and all that. And yeah, it seemed like that was that time that when these schools did start putting in big weight rooms and that started to be more of a thing, right? We kind of
Yeah.
didn't have any you know, large weight program at our school either. So, you know, going to Iowa is like a, you know, eye-opening experience, you know, going to the weight room and putting in that work there for sure. Um,
Yeah, we
and
were, and I don't remember what year you got there, but um, jumping ahead to the Iowa a little bit, but the weight room was still pretty small at Iowa, and it was pretty well, it was like state of the art in the early 80s, but now here we are, early 90s, and they were in the process of building a new weight room. But yeah, even then, it's still like it was still impressive to see the one that they were moving out of, still way better than anything I'd seen. So
yeah, I do remember that. It was tiny and dark and all that, right? And then we go into
yeah,
the new facility. It kind of like I don't remember
that
the
was.
transition of them building it. Just like it was like we walked in, they had this brand new building and new practice facility and all that. Yeah, it was great.
Were you there when they did the? We were in the rec building for a little bit, like in the where the track and field is. Do you ever have to work out upstairs and the above the track in that weight room?
Oh, got it. So maybe yes, it was actually okay. So
Yeah,
that makes sense because I was gonna say it. It felt like there was just that transition of like, oh, we just built this whole new thing, and I was like, I don't remember any part of that happening. It just showed up one day. But now
yeah.
that you say that, that does jog that memory for sure. Um, so yes, you kind of opened the door to for Iowa and recruiting in that. When did you kind of, you know, start thinking that you maybe would have a shot at playing at Iowa? Did you kind of, you know, how did you connect with them over there?
Yeah.
Maybe speak about that, speak about some of the other schools that you were looking at or they were looking at you, or if you can kind of go through that journey, it'd be great.
Yeah, actually, I'll back up a little bit more because there's a few things that maybe worked in my favor, whether I realized it or not. But so my dad was a police officer with the county, and him and the sheriff, Gary Hughes, their their role was to be security for Hayden prior to the games in Kinnick. And so they both would walk out with him off to the sideline, stay there on the whole game, and then escort him off the field. And so they did that while I was growing up in the early 80s as the team got popular. I don't remember exactly what year he started doing that, um, but that gave him some access to some of the players like Tom Nickel. I think he was there with Roby, but definitely Rob Houtland. So mid 80s. And he would pick Rob's brain about like practice techniques because he knew I was interested. So I was probably 84. I would have been 10 years old. So that was probably about the time I was starting to practice. And then Rob had that amazing season at 85, the game winning field goal. And so he'd come back and tell me like all these tips and stuff. Like, oh, you got to get this little Jan Stenerud kicking tee book. And he says you got to, do these kind of routines. And so he's like feeding me some information about what he noticed Rob doing. Rob stretches a lot. He's really flexible, and you got to work on your flexibility. And so then, so I was just practicing like that, but I didn't have a real other connection to the program. I think maybe we went to a road. I remember a road game going to Michigan. Like we drove with maybe it was Greg Morris in the truck with um, all those guys. Went to the game, and I just remember it was a super long trip, but I got to ride along with that. I don't even remember how old I was. And then when Sean Snyder, who is like a special teams coach now, but he was Bill Snyder's son. He was a kicker at Iowa or a punter for a couple of years. I think it was like late 80s. And he ended up coming over to City High for some reason. I don't know if our coach had a connection or not, but he came over and worked with the kickers for a little bit. So I remember meeting him, and then Jeff Skillett also came over one time and worked with us. So we had the advantage of having someone locally, and there was enough connections where they brought people over.
Yeah, go
Um, and then, but recruiting wise, I don't know if there was any other connection other than my head coach was in Iowa City, of course, and so I think he knew the staff pretty well. And we had some athletes come through over the years. There's always been some City High people that have gone to Iowa. Um, So there was a connection there, but I think my coach Larry Brown thought highly of me and saw that I think he saw a lot of potential because he saw that I hadn't really fully grown out yet, and he could see I had spent a lot of time and worked on it. So I think he put in a good word for me, and then my goal was to get a scholarship. That was like my driving force. So like I don't want to have to figure out a way to pay for school, and I want to be good enough that I get recruited. And I wanted to have a choice of schools, right? I think that's everyone's goals growing up, wants to pursue football. But so I got all conference my junior senior year, and then I got all state first team all state my senior year. And I thought, okay, I'll get some recognition, but usually you have to hit like a 50-yarder or more in high school to really get some serious recognition. And I never, my long was like 37. So I don't think I really got on any kind of radar as a kicker that strongly. So I had offers basically to walk on at UNI like you did. And then, but you would have got like a partial from UNI perhaps.
I think, yeah, we don't know if we got that far. Yeah. I think there was
Okay.
some sort of aid. Yeah, for sure.
So I got, yeah, an offer at UNI to walk on and an offer at Iowa to walk on. And so I was like debating between the two. I mean, UNI had a really good program. I liked the facilities. It was Terry Allen was the coach. Seemed really cool. They've had a lot of success. So I considered it, but I was also like, if I'm going to walk on, I might as well try D1 because if I do well, I'm always going to regret like, what if I tried to go D1? And so I said, I'm going to try to go to Iowa and then I'll have to just figure out how to earn my scholarship. Um, and if I don't play, then I don't play. Then maybe I won't have any regrets about it, but I'll be part of the Iowa team and see if I can contribute somewhere. You know, I was punting and kicking, so I felt like maybe there's a spot somewhere I could kind of squeeze in or that because I could do both. Um, and the recruitment was pretty minimal. I mean, I think I went to a basketball game, like you mentioned, and then they must have maybe they took us out to dinner, but I didn't have a visit per se. Like they didn't like I didn't get matched up with anybody on the team. They didn't like take me out on the town or anything. Um, it was just like come to the game, see the facility, meet some of the coaches, and there was a group of us together. And I don't remember who all was there. And then it was like, okay, it's over, and you know, let us know what you think, and we'll be in touch. And they check in every couple of weeks or so. And when I went to UNI, I did like more of a real visit. They matched me up with their
Official
kicker
visit. Yeah.
there. Yeah, and they took us out and went to the bars and stuff like that. But I was more just like really wanted to pick the guy's brain who was a kicker there. He was I can't remember, I think it was Brian Mitchell. He was an All-American kicker. So I was like, what kind of kicking routines are you doing? What are your stretch? You know, like, can we just
Yeah.
go kick in the dome right now? I don't want to go out to the bars actually. I just want to go like kick
All
and
right.
watch you and pick up some tips. So I probably wasn't very good at recruit. They're like, you guys want some beer or something? And I was like, no, not really. I don't really haven't drink yet. So I just want to pick your brain, really. But that was more like a traditional
Yeah.
recruiting visit. So then I
Uh,
just decided, you know, let me just try Iowa, see if I can make a go of it.
right. I was like, went to the restaurant and they're like, you can order these four things and below.
Yeah.
Not the big steak.
We have these blue cards you can use. You have
Yeah.
$8 worth.
Yeah. Right. It's like not the big steak, not the big steak or the last.
Wait, let me see. Oh no, you're walk on.
Yeah. 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 You're so,
Here's your menu. Yeah.
yeah. You need you can only have one side, okay? Just the mashed
Yeah.
potatoes and the green beans.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't know any better. Right? Like, so I didn't know about getting that's just the normal thing. Like you go to a game, they show you around, meet some people, and that's it. So I didn't think anything bad about it. It's just okay, that's cool. I got a free game to go to. I was just kind of happy to get the interest, but you know, deep down, I did want a scholarship. I was hoping that that would happen, but um, I realized that all right, there's no other school showing interest. Then I gotta make a decision with what I've got. So it's really those two schools were my main offers. I don't think I had any even other serious interest or even other walk-on offers. So it made it kind of easy, I guess. Only had two choices.
Yeah. Did you happen to go to any of the camps when you were younger, like the North Hale or any of those type deals?
I went to Pelfrey camps. Yep.
Oh, right, yeah.
I didn't go to Sky Hale. No, I didn't even know if those were around or maybe I wasn't aware of them. But I did get on with Pelfrey and then went to like they had an Iowa camp, maybe in Des Moines or somewhere. And then I went to a camp in Dallas and I did well in the camp. So I thought, well, maybe that will help me out. Like I won a couple of the awards there. So that gave me some exposure to people outside of our state because it wasn't a very good, like, they weren't getting a lot of kickers coming out of Iowa going to any schools. I think Todd Severs ended up a couple years later getting signed by Miami, but that was like unheard of to have a kicker go outside of state. And they were usually Iowa kickers were brought in from another state. So like we go back, I don't know if there's that many soccer style kickers that were even from the state of Iowa. So it's not where people were looking for kickers, and most of them were walk-ons. And most of the Iowa kickers had been outside of Iowa. So I feel like maybe I was onto something that there was a growth of Iowa developed kickers by the time we were leaving that started to proliferate, and now there is some really good kickers coming through in the state. But at the time, that wasn't really that common for any kickers in Iowa high schools to get a scholarship.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, that's maybe back to that same thing where people see that it can be done, right? And then kind of starts that spark.
Maybe. I mean, but I'm not going to take any credit for Nate Kading or someone like that. But
why not? You should.
It was starting to build up some people. Like Todd Severs, I guess, was just a couple of years behind, so he was already doing some great stuff. But maybe it's just in general that people see, oh, there's a pathway for kickers, and you know, there are opportunities there, and there's not a lot of opportunities in the soccer realm. Can't really do much with that. So I think that started to get people interested in maybe switching over, or a lot of the schools were saying going to the soccer programs and taking kids out of there and saying, please come help us. It wasn't even that common that we'd play teams that would kick extra points. They allowed them to go for two still. I think now most would kick an extra point, but I feel like a lot of teams we played, they go for two a lot. So
yeah. And when you were,
times.
yeah, for sure. When you were playing soccer, you guys played Bettendorf. Was Tavian Banks on that team, on those teams?
Yep. And proud to say we did beat them on their field one time. That was a game that, you know, he was so talented he could run circles around all of us, but we somehow managed to beat them one time on their home field. So it was a tournament they had. So that was pretty cool. And actually, I do remember now, speaking of Coach Elliott, he was there recruiting Tavian at one of those tournaments, watching him play soccer.
It's soccer,
and
yeah.
Then he came over, and I think he saw me play a little bit too. So now I think about it, yeah, that's, you know, coming to see someone and then noticing someone else. I mean, I think he already knew about me at that time, but I do remember him stopping by or watching a little bit of the game that we were playing. So he was all over the place.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Being a high school recruiter, you have to kind of be all over the place and have your, you know, ears to the ground, like trying to figure out where the prospects are at, and like, you know, finding the Chad Greenways out in South Dakota and those types, right? I mean, it's
right.
It's probably an interesting job, right? To run around, watch high school basketball games and soccer matches and all that stuff. Yeah.
I think he was my first contact, and then I think when it started looking like I was going to be a walk-on, then it went over to Coach Austin, and then he was my main contact. And then I think he dealt with all the walk-ons at that point.
Yeah, I think Austin was a recruiting coordinator too, so I think I remember kind of the same, or maybe I was on that cusp of being both of those, but remember seeing him a lot as well.
Maybe that was it. Maybe Elliott was like regional, and then once it gets to a point that, all right, we're serious, or we're gonna ask someone to be a walk-on or preferred walk-on. They didn't really call it preferred walk-ons back then, but that's essentially what it was, because I got to come into camp with everybody else, even the scholarship guys at the same time. Sometimes they'll make the walk-ons come later, but I was treated like I was on scholarship. I just didn't get the training table and had to pay my own way. So that was cool. I think that they didn't really distinguish me any differently on the team. And so I think that helped.
Nice. Where did you live in Slater, or where'd you live in the dorms?
Yeah. Slater, I think the 7th floor, and then the 1st floor of the 2nd year.
Oh, gotcha.
I roomed with Kevin Braddock, who was a West Branch star. So I saw he was going to walk on too, and I think I tried to connect with them and say, "Hey, we're close by. I don't know you, but we're going to need roommates. Do you want to be roommates in the dorms?" So he's a cool guy, and that worked out well.
Nice. And did you, back to soccer, did you think at all of trying to play in college, or do you, even at like a smaller school or anything farther than that?
No, I really didn't. I think I saw like there was opportunity there for kicking, and I was okay at soccer. It wasn't like superstar, and I didn't commit like most of the guys in the soccer team played it most of the year, and it wasn't really like my priority, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something I wanted to really do full time. I was like, what am I going to do? Like play a lower level division school soccer program, or I could try to do D1, and I felt like I was good enough to play D1. So I think there was, no brainer there. Yeah, it really wasn't a serious consideration.
When you got to camp, like, tell me about that. Tell me about like your first couple of days in camp, your kind of experience coming in, like how you felt, how you thought about it, kind of your approach to what you did to get to where you were and what you did, kind of thing.
I think before we started, we got like a weight program sent to us. But what I didn't find out till the last minute was there was going to be a time test. I don't remember what they called it. Was it the 560s?
Oh,
300 something. What was that? But you had to run two sets of those with a minute break in between, and you had to get both of them under a certain amount of time. I feel like you had to run 300 yards, like five,
sure. It was
60 yard runs, fitness,
yeah.
And then you get a quick short minute break, and then you got to go again, and both times have to be under a certain number.
Sure.
And I remember it was like a week or two before the camp started, and someone said, "Oh, you got to do their test." I'm like, "What? What test are you talking about?" Running test. And so I was like, "Oh man, I got to cram for this." So I was like, quickly, I tried to get ready for it. It was totally caught me off guard. So I was like, I don't want to fail this thing. Like right out of the bat, I'm walk on. I can't give them any reason to like get rid of me, I guess. So I was like, I got to figure out how to get this running thing down here. So luckily I found out about it, didn't get surprised by it. So I got a weight training program, but I think it was pretty generic. It wasn't like customized for kicking.
Yeah.
And then I got, like regular letters sent in from different coaches. Coach Fry sent a letter, a generic one that kind of mass sent out to all the players. And then I think Coach Triplett was my special teams coach. He'd send a couple of letters here and there, just kind of keep people informed of what's going on and motivate people. So, and then you showed up, and then you're meeting all these people. And I knew some of the people because, like Driscoll was pretty well known and famous. And a couple of people I met here and there, but most of them I didn't know very well. And I think we came in, freshmen were all by ourselves for the first day or two. Feel like that's how it worked. So we could all get to know each other first before the rest of the team showed up. I feel like that was at least a day or two before, when my memory serves me.
Yeah.
That's why I want to hear from other guys too. Like, what was the scenario there?
Yeah.
Were we there 3 days early, 2 days? What were we doing? Just running drills.
Yeah, kind of like a
So
freshman. Sure.
yeah, I think it was. And just get settled, get the routine down so when you show up, like you know what you're doing. So then that was nice because we could just focus on ourselves and then everybody else showed up and you're like, oh, I know these people. Like I've been watching football. Like I've been watching the Hawks. Those are people like, yeah, I know their names. I know who they are. They're it's kind of crazy. It's a little like they're mini celebrities, especially in the state of Iowa. So trying not to get overwhelmed or like distracted by that a bit, but just trying to stay focused. And then you're meeting the other specialists. So it was like Scott Fisher, Andy Kreider, Todd Romano. Trying to remember some of the other people, but and just try to get along, I guess, and figure it out and see what the practice structure looked like. I don't know what else were you thinking.
Yeah, just curious on your experience. I mean, it's a big change, right? Going to college, just going to college alone is a huge experience, right? Going away from home and getting plugged in and kind of where your head was at and how you were thinking about it and what you went through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think luckily classes hadn't started yet, so we kind of got time to get settled a bit. You're doing 2 days, so that's normal. We've always done 2 days, so that wasn't too different. Other than it just a lot more time spent on it. So you've got like film study and you've got meals covered, which that was really awesome. Like, all right, free food, sweet. Um, what else? Just yeah, and then just trying to get to know people and especially like you were talking about people from much different backgrounds and um, from what I experienced in Iowa City, there's a little diversity there, but a lot of different people coming from all over the country. And so yeah, it was all pretty good. I thought you'd get some hazing a little bit. I don't remember too bad. Um, just getting picked on, or it's just normal stuff that happens with the young kids and freshmen and stuff. So nothing too bad. Um, yeah, and then just trying to get on the weight program, but I came in at 6'4", 160.
Well,
I remember, and then within like 2 weeks, I was 180, just because I was eating like square meals every day and working out a lot from summer and stuff, and so I quickly put on weight, and then yeah, just kind of kept adding every year a little bit more, maybe 5, 10 pounds each year
right.
from there on.
And it ended up what, like a 215 or something?
215. So when I graduated, yep, same height. So I added on like, what's that, 20, 35 pounds,
Yeah.
45 pounds total from when I started camp. I started camp, I think at 160. Because I feel like I added 20 pounds right away. So that's 50 pounds, like a third of my weight got
Yeah,
added on.
right. Eating steak and cereal every night.
Yep. And then just, yeah, and I was doing weight gain shakes, trying to add some weight. Because I was just, too thin. I don't need to be 215, but I felt like that was a good size for my body, so I didn't look like I was starving or get crushed or knocked over. And now we're playing against guys that are, 260 and run way faster than me. Like it's gonna hurt if they hit me for some reason. So it's more to almost protect yourself.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, late night shakes, trying to put in like protein and dry milk and ice cream and milk and peanut butter and try and just peanut butter sandwiches, just trying to get protein and food in your body, and also replenish yourself from 2 days and stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the things I think for me was just like the calories, right? The intake was just so immense. And you're like,
Yep.
you almost when you quit, you have to kind of like shut that off somehow, which is kind of hard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's where guys struggle, I think.
For sure. So take me like kind of fast forward like to your first on-field experience. Tell me what that was like. Tell me what you thought of, what you were thinking about, how you felt, if you were, feeling confident and thought you were, yeah, you just go through what you thought, what you felt, I guess is probably
Yeah. So they let, I think all all the players got to dress for at least one home game. So when you're redshirted, and so they let me go to the Iowa State game, maybe because I was an Iowa City kid, and that was a home game, and so that was cool. You know, you get to warm up, and you get to go through the whole routine, and you get to see the behind the scenes of what's going on. So I've never seen anything like that. I'd never been really in the locker room, so that was all a whole new experience. But it was nice that I didn't have to play, so I could just enjoy the experience and then go out in the swarm. And yeah, it was just wild because you've been in the stands a bunch. I went to lots of games. I didn't go to all of these, but I went pretty frequent. My dad had season tickets. I'd go probably at least half the games. But yeah, it's different perspective when you're on the field, and then just trying to absorb that whole experience and try to at least do something productive and cheer and support your teammates. But so that was cool to go through that, and then I think that helps. Then when you're ready to go the next time it's real and you might be playing, then at least I've gotten through some of that. You know what to expect, and so then that was the only thing I really did that redshirt freshman year was go through and do that one game on the sidelines. I think the only one that played that year was Tommy Knight. He didn't do his redshirt. Everyone else redshirted from that class. So we had 20 some guys and they all redshirted pretty much.
And we had a number of those guys went to the NFL, right? They had at least 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, I think we had 3 or 4. It would be, well, Rodney got signed. I don't know if he got drafted or not. Or if he signed, I think he signed free agent. But it was Verba, first round, Tom Knight, first round. Because Tom Knight actually got hurt later and had a redshirt, maybe his junior or sophomore year. And then what else was there?
That Drake, Damian Robinson,
Damien, yeah, D-Rob. He got signed, or he got drafted. Like maybe there's one more. And then a few of us free agent. So me, you, Rodney. Is there one other? I'll have to look it up, but drawing a blank. So
yeah,
maybe 6 or 7. I feel like 7 was the right number. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Yeah, gotcha.
We'll think about later. Oh, Innocenj. That was the other one. I think he
Okay.
signed. I don't know if he got drafted or not, but I know he had the kidney issue that he got free agent signed. I think he was the other one. So yeah, we had pretty decent class, and then yeah, over the years we got progressively better. 93, I think we talked about Alamo Bowl. 94 didn't go to a bowl game. 95 Sun Bowl. 96 Alamo Bowl again. So I think we had some really good teams. The last 2 years were pretty good teams. 8-4, 9-3. So it was good. It was, below our expectations, but looking back, I was pretty happy with it. Turned out it was like Hayden's last good team, 96. The other teams got progressively worse from there. So I don't know if that's really what would have been expected. So yeah, good team. We had a lot of good success. Fell short of our goals for sure, but I look back and I feel pretty good about how things ended up, at least after a rocky start the first couple of years.
Nice. So walk me through. You were the Sun Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
You had like a number of over 40 plus yard field goals. Walk me through that game. Walk me through what clicked in that game for you, or how?
I'm gonna back up a little bit because I think got an interesting story of my career leading up to that point. So 93, we talked about with you. I got in with punting right away, and so we traded punts first couple games. Then in 90, end of 93, I took over for kicking at the end, and then played in the Alamo Bowl. I think that was my first game as place kicker. And then somewhere in 93 too, I think Todd kicked off, and I was doing something. Maybe I did do kickoffs, partial kickoffs, or I did all kickoffs in 93 too. So even when you were talking about like I stopped punting and you took over full time, I was still doing something else to stay in the roster and play. So I think I took over kickoffs about that time. So at least I was always doing something on the field in some capacity.
Right.
And then my first field goal and first game as a kicker was at Alamo Bowl. The 93 season, I think I lost the position to Todd in the spring. And then in 94, I think he struggled the first couple of games. And so they let me take over for the Oregon game. And then I think I finished out the rest of the year as the kicker that year. And I've got an Oregon story I want to share, but then 95, I think I held the position through spring. And then after the first couple of games, I missed a PAT in the first game against UNI. And then at Iowa State, I missed a short field goal and got extra point blocked, or I slipped on the field and missed the extra point. Then Todd came in, made a long field goal, and then missed an extra point. And then they brought Bromert in for the next game. And so then he took over the rest of the kicking, but I could still fill in with long field goals. So I think he kind of tapped out at about 45 yards. And so I took over like anything over like the 25-yard line and beyond. I did long field goals. And then maybe somewhere in there, I started pooch punting too. And I was kicking off. So then that's where I ended up. I was doing long field goals, pooch punts, and kickoffs. And a series of like winning the job, losing the job, getting demoted, taking over for something. It's just kind of like it was not very consistent the first couple of years. And just having to like kind of keep like getting back up a little bit and keep kind of competing. And so towards the 95 season, I lost the job and I was just only doing long field goals. And I think I made a 50-yarder at Michigan State. And that was like my first real like long kick. And I started to build up confidence. And then I think I hit another one at Wisconsin, another 50-yarder. And then maybe that year I hit something else at Minnesota or something. But I was starting to build up confidence with my field goal kicking, and I was doing okay with the long field goals. And even Coach Fry was making a joke like, the further you put him back, the better he does. Like, because I missed, short field kicks and basically lost my job. So Zach was really accurate. So it worked out well. We just kind of found this kind of weird niche of everyone has a role to play. So when we got to the Sun Bowl, I think I didn't think anything really special about that. It was just, kept working at it, but didn't feel anything different about that game. The only thing that stood out was prior to the game, they showed the last time we played Washington. It was like 1982 Rose Bowl, 28-0 loss. Then they showed like 1991 Rose Bowl, 45-28 loss or something like that.
Right.
And like I could feel like your blood starts to boil a little bit. It's just like, oh yeah, I remember as a kid watching those games and it just feel demoralized. They pretty much, trounced Iowa pretty handily in those games. And it's just like I got this kind of like a little bit of rage inside, like, oh yeah, I remember those games, like heartbreaking. You wanted to see Coach Fry win the Rose Bowl. Right? That was the crowning achievement almost, aside from a national championship that you could have. For Iowa, that's probably the most realistic thing you could get. So he hadn't done that yet. And we're trying to build up our team to get to the Rose Bowl again and maybe win one. But so that kind of lit a fire in me a little bit that day. But I think you just happen to get opportunities too. So we stall out and it's a first kick's like 49 yards or something. And I hit it well, but it went pretty far. Later, I realized like we were at altitude pretty high. So that helps the ball carry a little bit. El Paso, yeah, it's a couple thousand feet up in the air. So that does help the ball carry a little bit. So that's an advantage, but you still got to kick it straight, I guess. So, and then things just started going really well at the beginning. We had a long touchdown run by Cedric. I think they muffed one of your punts, and we got it. Maybe that was what led to the first field goal. So, and then they snapped the ball over their own punter's head for safety. Then they got another attempt later in the game to do 47 and made that one. And then Brommer hit a couple field goals. So we were scoring on a lot of our possessions, and our defense was playing well. We started to take control of that game, and then I think I got one more chance to do 50. But sometimes it's just luck on what days you get opportunities. Like, you can't manufacture when you're going to get a field goal attempt. It just happens, right? So you have to be ready so many times. And I tell people, like, I was exhausted mentally from the game, even if I didn't do much kicking, because you were preparing to kick 23 times a game. Like, oh, this is going to be a field goal. If they don't get the first down, I got to go in there and kick. Oh, we got the first down. Good. And then, oh, third down again. Got to be ready. Okay, what hash are we on? How far am I out? Oh, got the first down. Okay, good. And so, like this, you're building up, and then they're relaxing. And I was like, I might could have kicked 3 times in the game, but I was like dead. I was crashed. My brain was done. It's like, no more. It's too much like stress and things there. So I guess, like, yeah, you're ready to go in 10, 15 times a game, and you might only go in 2 or 3. So it's just luck that I got those attempts. I mean, I could have been feeling great and we never kicked a field goal. And there's days that I wasn't feeling very good and we get a lot of attempts, and it's like, this is not the day I wanted to have a lot of field goal attempts. Just something doesn't feel right today. I'm sure you felt that as a punter too. Like, it's just some days it's just ball's not, you're not hitting the ball right. Something's just a little off. You hope those are the days you don't need your services as much, and the days you're bombing it, you're like, please, let's punt a bunch because I'm feeling it today. Like a shooter, a basketball shooter, or a golfer, it's very similar. Get on a streak a little bit, but try to minimize that so you're as consistent as possible every game. But as I got older, I got more consistent, and that was just a culmination, I think, of a lot of things building up to that. So that was really cool because it felt like a lot of the struggle I went through in those first couple of years, it kind of felt like a nice reward for all that. It's like, stuck with it, kept working at it, and it paid off. And it was just like, everything seemed to go well that day for our team and for me personally. So that's something I look fondly on. And yeah, by far my best day kicking in a game, high school or college.
Yeah, no, you were on fire that day, or had the opportunities and felt great. So it was fun to watch. I think it would be interesting to hear more about, like, the process of, like, when you were getting ready, like what you would go through. Like, can you just walk through that for someone? Because I think, like, kickers are kind of a funny position. I think people
We're strange. It's all right.
Well, I mean, I think it's just it's a funny position because you come in for only a few plays. You're kind of separate from the team a bit. You take a lot of the heat when things go wrong. It's just like it's like a all or nothing. It's a pressure situation. It's just an interesting position. I think people kind of don't get that piece of, like, what is it actually like to be like, okay, it's you make this, we win the game. You miss this, we lose this, and, like, everyone is like, you're the one that just did that. And kind of, I think, like, yeah, talk to me about the mental piece of it. What it was like going out in the field, or, like, just, yeah, if you have anything that way to just put someone in a position of, like, this is what it feels like to be in my spot.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the position gets too much credit on a game-winning field goal for winning the game, right? You barely did anything except for one kick. And your teammates busted their ass for the entire game and beat the crap out of each other. And you come in with a clean uniform and kick a field goal, right? So shouldn't be the focus of a kicker winning the game. But also, to to lose the game and say it's their fault too. It's shouldn't take all the blame and heat for that either. So, but that's how it is. It's comes down to that, and that's the position. That's what you're going into. Um, do you have the mental capacity to handle it? I think I did okay. Um, you had to have strong mental skills to be able to talk yourself through stuff and try to get yourself ready. And especially if you have a bad kick, you got to figure out a way to get yourself ready for the next one. So how I'd approach it, I needed to feel confident in my technique, and sometimes I was tweaking it still a little bit. So I know there was times I would go back over before practice and practice between classes because I wasn't happy with my technique or something wasn't feeling right. And I'd say I'd rather kick my leg out and be a little tired, but feel confident in my technique, even if my leg wasn't as fresh as it should be. And so probably I overkicked a lot. But that, as long as I felt good about my approach, I knew like my leg was probably going to be okay enough to get the ball over the uprights. We're not going to be kicking 60-yarders hardly ever. So I can usually on a sore leg or a tired leg, I could still hit it for 50. So it was more about like I wanted to feel confident about my technique. And so sometimes I was working that out in a pregame warmups. And that's not a good ideal thing to do, but that's I'd have to try to figure out in between a quarter, I might run out there and see if I can get some kicks in, or at halftime try to get out a little bit early so I can get as many kicks as I could just to kind of work out something that's not feeling right. So confidence had to be there. And then during the game, you had to be ready to go. I was always paranoid that I was going to not be able to find my helmet, or not sure where the kickoff tee was, and they were going to call me and I wasn't ready to go. And so I was just tried to stay really focused on where we were. I liked to like be on the opposite end of where the ball was so that I could kind of look at the uprights that we were moving towards. So let's say the team is driving to the south end zone. I would be as far north on the sidelines as I could so that I could look at the south end zone and like start to visualize what I was looking at for the upright. So when I get out there, kind of like I've been looking at this for a little while. It doesn't look like new or different. So that was something I always tried to do, to stay like on the opposite side. So I had that angle and I could start to kind of visualize this kick. And then just kind of focus on a couple like reminders to myself about the pace or my slant foot or my step foot. I mean, it's very robotic, but you always try to get the steps down so you could land in the exact same spot every time, and you did everything the exact same way to minimize any chance of like kicking the ball right or left or messing up something. So you just go through things in your mind, and then you're paying attention to the down distance and where we're at, and you're trying to just mentally say, all right, if we get stopped here, it's be about 45 yards from the left. And then so you're just kind of judging like, all right, do I gotta really lay into this kick? Like if it's 53, I gotta put a little bit more into it. It's 43. I know that I'm not going to worry about the distance that'll be there. It's just really about hitting the ball solid. And it's just trying to stay focused and then also stay relaxed. So like not get too ramped up. And I tried to like encourage my teammates, and I tried to get the crowd going as much as I could. But also as it got closer to me having to kick, I would stop that and just kind of stay focused on what I might have to do. And like I said, it was just up and down all game. We're going to kick. Nope, not this time. We're going to kick. Nope, we're going to go for it. Okay. Are we going to score? Did they score on that one? Do I need to go out on extra point or go out for field goal? Nope, not this time. So you're just kind of preparing yourself, and it kind of gets closer, closer, third down, and then something happened at fourth down, and you're, oh, we're going out, or nope, we're not going out. And then you just kind of go through that all game long. And so it's just trying to be ready. And I didn't ever want to like not be prepared where I could kick myself and say, you weren't ready to go out there when you needed to. So I was just always trying to make sure I had everything I needed and I was mentally there in good headspace and feeling confident. And if I didn't feel confident, I was trying to trick myself into being confident.
Just by
Got
like
this.
mentally just talking through it.
Yeah, just talking to myself and just trying to like pump myself up and get my confidence up and say, like, you can do this, all right? You've done this 1,000 times. Like, figure it out. Like, um, and just, yeah, you just try to make sure because I can't go out there and feel like I'm not going to make it or I'm not sure. It's just, it's not a positive way to approach it. You're not going to be successful that way. And I know there's times where I was like afraid to miss and not really focused on like making the kick. It was like, make sure it doesn't look awful. Like, and that's a bad attitude to have. It's that you're not going to be successful.
Don't
You're like,
mess this up terribly.
right. It'd be like shooting a basketball and saying, don't miss it badly or don't airball it. Like you're not
Yeah.
going to do well. You got to be like, I'm going to make this kick or I'm going to make this shot.
Yeah.
I can't say I was always that confident though. And so it's, I think the people that are really good at it and the professionals, they have the ability to be super confident and they miss a kick, no big deal. Go back and do it again. I'm good. And I struggle to get over a bad kick and get ready for the next one and forget about it. You know, you start thinking, oh gosh, it's gonna be in the paper. They're gonna have video. I'm gonna have to watch the video of this on Monday, and it's gonna be embarrassing. And you know, to try to like block some of that out of your head. It's a mental exercise. Like the physical part's done. It's the kick. You know how to kick the ball or not. And so I think that's also as you mature, you get better at managing the mental side of it.
And you only have, so many opportunities and, it's a week apart, right? So you have a week to go home and think about it and watch the highlights and all those things, right? I think that's one of the things that the average fan doesn't understand, that like when something goes wrong, that like them yelling at you is not the problem, right? We're like, you're so far in that hole of like, oh, I can't believe that happened. And like, what did I do wrong? And all those things. So I think that's an interesting piece to hear. Yeah. When you did do wrong, and it's like, your career you had lots of, ups and downs. You had to deal with a lot of adversity and like in and out of games and just, be willing to kind of jump in when someone's like, okay, you got a chance to do this. And you're like, to go forward for that. That's a hard skill to do. Right. Plus having it on TV, right? I think that's the other, like, everyone watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I think it, makes you pretty strong, but I mean, this is sports adversity. Let's put it in perspective too. Like this isn't life or death. So, but it did definitely like prepare me for like being able to deal with tough situations and just staying calm and not like making more mistakes, right? It's being able to say, all right, I'm gonna slow things down. I'm gonna focus on what I can control here and not get rattled by the other stuff. And that's a skill you have to have, is being able to ignore the outside noise as much as possible. It's there, can't fully ignore it, but you get good at it, and then everything else seems easy once you've gone through some of those experiences and you've fought back from bad games and times where you've been demoted, and then it's like, all right, I can handle this. Like I'm getting tougher skin every year, so and then you just, yeah, like you said, when something goes wrong, it's like no one's more harder on anyone but myself. Like I'm the most harshest critic of myself. Like whatever you're saying in the fans, like, yeah, I agree. Like bring it on because I deserve it. Like I will beat myself up more than anyone can yell at me. So that doesn't really affect me. But I'm just disappointed in myself, and I'm disappointed in letting my teammates down and the fans down. That's the hardest part. And so, after a game, if I didn't think I did well, I didn't like to go out. I don't want to be in public. I don't want to have, I don't think I deserve to be celebrating. It's like, even though that's really a bad attitude looking back, I should have said, hey, our team won. Let's enjoy it. I didn't do as well as I'd like to. We'll get it next time. I took it pretty serious, and I took it pretty harsh when I didn't do well, and I was disappointed in myself, but maybe that drove me a little bit to get better. But so it was nice as it got better over the years that I felt better after most of the games, and I could actually enjoy it a little bit more. So, but the first couple of years were really rough. It was, I say my Iowa experience was the greatest time and the worst time of my life. because it was so much ups and downs like that. You feel like, oh my gosh, everyone knows that I'm terrible. And then other times it's like you feel like on top of the world. So um, it's a weird mix of emotions when you think back to some of this.
Yeah, and to be fair, you were a relatively shy person as well, right? So you probably wouldn't have been going out normally that much, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, not the most social person.
You weren't back then, which
I'm
is
getting
kind of
better. I'm getting better. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
every year I get a
I
little
drag
better.
you out sometimes and be like, "We're going out." You're like, "Okay."
I guess if I
Um,
have to.
it is interesting to hear you say that about kind of not celebrating. I feel like there wasn't very many games that I wasn't kind of like upset at myself for not doing well enough, right? It's kind of like, oh, we had a big win, and I'd be like, oh, I did 3 out of 4, and just like, yeah, that kind of that negativity, and I think to some degree it got me quite a ways, but also just like, what if I was able to just deal with that differently instead of just being like, oh man, you just can't enjoy the moment. Yeah, to some degree, you're just like, oh, I just should have done this.
Looking back, I would have, if I could have convinced myself, I would have taken a different attitude and approach. Right? It's flush that last kick. Don't worry about it. And then if the team wins, celebrate with the team. Won. We all could have done better. Unfortunately, as a kicker and punter, you don't get a lot of opportunities to go back out the next play and fix it, right? So like a quarterback can do terrible for 3 quarters, and if as long as they can pull it out in the fourth quarter, everyone's like, "Hey, great, you did it." Who cares about your first half? But it's like you might only get 2 kicks, so you can't recover till next week. Yeah, it's a long time. You got to sit with it. And it might be even an hour or two in the game that you have to sit with that bad kick. And so, yeah, just trying to figure out how do I flush that out of my brain and get ready for the next one because I'm gonna have to go kick a game-winning field goal. I mean, I never did have to kick a game-winning field goal, so I never got to be kick the game-winning kick or miss the game-winning kick either. So, but you had to be ready for that case. There are a few times I think it might have been close to doing that, but never did actually happen. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe I'd be
Yeah,
on some highlight reel for the eternity for missing an important kick. But maybe I could have had a game-winning field goal too. Who knows? So just kind of see how things play out. You don't have control over what kind of opportunities come up.
yeah, for sure. And did you feel the support from your other teammates? I know that's kind of an interesting relationship between specialists and the other teammates. Like that's, it's hard because they're putting in the physical work, right? And you're kind of
Yep.
putting in the mental work.
I think we got our just ribbing. I think it is annoying for people
We
to
should have
see
been made
us.
fun of.
I think we deservedly were made fun of at the right amount. Because yeah, we would go and we do our kicking, go early ahead of everyone else. We warm up, stretch, and then we would go through our routines. And then the holders, snappers would come out, and then they'd work with us. And then there might be some drills, and then we're done because we've already done all of the kicking we really need to be able to do and should do. And so, what do we do the rest of the game? Or the rest of the practice? We can just sit there and watch practice, which is okay, but gets a little boring after a while. You're just, not really actively engaged there. So the other part of it was we'd go work out, we'd go lift weights. The last couple of years, we got the new weight room, we got pool tables, so we got really good at playing pool. We play stupid, football games where we throw things at objects and try to knock them off. And so, yeah, people seeing that when they're sweating and stuff, they're probably not too happy about that. I think what helped a lot is I think we got along well with everybody, and I think they did see that we worked pretty hard. We hit the gym pretty well. We did our runs. We did our like any kind of like winter workout stuff. We were part of like the tight ends and the fullbacks, running backs group. So there's some really good athletes there. And we held our own pretty well. You especially because you're also playing other positions like tight end. But I tried to like show like I'm not just the kicker. I'm a football player that happens to be the kicker. So I think that earned a little respect maybe from our teammates, so they didn't give us too much of a hard time. But a lot of them always joke like, when I have kids, I'm going to call you up and you're going to teach them how to kick, so I don't have to go through this crap. Um,
Oh, that's
so,
other players would say that. Yeah.
yeah, they tell me that. But I think, yeah, you just kind of try to fit in and be a good teammate and support your teammates and not annoy them. So I think we did well at that.
I think I got made fun of extra, extra, extra more than a lot of other people.
That could be, maybe I was so quiet that they didn't have a chance to make fun of me as much. Not sure.
Definitely. Tell me about the story about missing the Oregon bus almost.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned that that was going to be my first in the 94 season. I think Todd was struggling a little bit. So again, he had beaten me out in the spring, and then in the first couple games into the season, they wanted to give me a shot at it. I never felt like I beat him out ever. I feel like he didn't perform as well in a game, and then they let me take a shot at it. So I would say in general, in practice, he routinely beat me out most of the time.
Just
So
more consistency, or what do you mean?
he was just, yeah, more consistent. He was a really good kicker, and then just for some reasons, he either struggled in certain games or um, I'm not sure, but I never really felt like I could beat him out, but I would take over for him at times when he would struggle a bit. So same thing happened. He beat me out in the spring, and then they decided to make a change to let me kick for the Oregon game. So, on a road trip, we take the bus from the football complex and we go to the airport, and then they bypass the terminal and basically go into the side through security and go right out to the tarmac, I guess. And then we go into a private plane, small plane that holds 100 people. So it's like a regional jet size. And they load us all up, and staff and coaches and players are all in one flight. And then we fly to our destination. So we never took like a commercial flight. That'd be crazy to have 100 some players and staff and coaches like load up on a commercial flight somewhere. So anyways, the bus was leaving at a certain time, and I was just hanging out, and I knew exactly what time we were supposed to be there, and for some reason just blanked on it. I don't know. Wasn't like I was busy doing something, or I was just watching TV, and then I looked down. I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're leaving in like 10 minutes. Oh my crap, I gotta go." So I raced over there, and there's 3 buses that they take. There's probably, I don't know, 40 in a bus. And I'm pulling up, and the first bus is pulling away. Then the second bus, I think, is starting to go. And so I get out, and I have my bag of stuff, and I think everything's already loaded already. So I just jump onto the third bus. Well, I'm supposed to be on the first bus because that's where like first and second team players are on. So I get on the bus, and they're just like glaring at me. And I don't remember who was on that third bus. It might have been Coach Elliott or someone. They were just like giving me the stare, like, "What are you thinking?" And you just shrink and shrivel down to find a seat, the quickest seat you could find, and just like curl up in a ball. And just like, gosh, at least I got on the bus, because I was like, what am I gonna do if that third bus had already pulled away? Like, try to like track it down. And then I was like, maybe
man gets arrested jumping over fences.
yeah. Then I was like, what, I'm gonna meet him at the airport, like try to speed ahead and get to the airport, and like then I was like, wait, no, they go through, like, they don't go through the terminal. It's not like I can meet them in the terminal and then walk through security with them. Like, they skip the whole terminal. They go right to the tarmac. I'm not going to take my car in. And I was like, I don't know what I would have done. They would have probably left me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, blew a huge opportunity. And then I know there was already like mad about it, like, what is this kid? Like, I can't believe we're going to let him kick in this game. And then, so that game was bad. They blocked 2 extra points, and we end up losing, and I don't remember what else happened, but it just wasn't a good game. Just like, oh, couldn't have gone any worse. This whole weekend, just disaster, like from the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and you just don't want them to like, again, you don't want them to question, like, are they making a good choice or not? And so, like, just stuff like showing up late and stuff, just bad. And they were, Coach Fry was really, really harped on time. Like 5 minutes late was late. It's hawk time. Hawk time is 5 minutes early.
Oh
And
my,
all
yeah,
right, we're rolling
my
in.
wife still is like, what? We have time, and I was like, no, it's 5 minutes. 5 minutes early is on time. It's just like
Yeah,
it's drilled into you, right? It's like it's 25 years later. I'm still
you're
like, okay,
yeah, I'm just scared to miss something like that. And so I didn't. I got probably more relaxed after football on that. But then, you know, over the years as I got older, I'm getting a lot better on my time management again. But I was just, yeah, that was a close call. I was very close to like major disaster. I don't know what would have happened, but that would have been bad. Luckily, they didn't like demote me right after that game. They stuck with me a little bit because I did struggle a little bit more, and then I started to get into a groove at the end of the year. So again, I think sometimes the coaches are just taking a shot, they're taking a guess. They don't know for sure. They're um, they're just going with their gut, and they're saying, let's mix something up, let's try something, see if this changes things, see if we can get better results from someone else. I don't know. So yeah, you just don't want to. I never wanted to give them reasons not to give me a shot. And so I was just disappointed in myself to even make it that kind of a close call.
yeah, that's got to be stressful. I still have. You were talking about the losing the helmet and the cleats and all that stuff. I have that as a failure dream. Like even now, I'll be like
Even now,
walking
yep,
around like, oh, I can't figure out where my socks are at. I'm like, I can't get my socks. I'm like, what?
yep.
Yeah,
It's
it's
still a
funny.
constant dream. I think it's probably what a couple times a year. Yeah, I'll wake up and I said, "Yep, I couldn't get into the stadium. Couldn't find my helmet. The shoes were lost. Something is missing. I had to walk all the way around. The game had already started. I hadn't warmed up yet. I mean, this is a nightmare I keep waking up with 30 years later. Like, it's crazy. But it was so like the fear of not being ready to go when you were called upon is still haunts me a little bit. But yeah, it's crazy. I just like, how am I still having these dreams? This is nuts. This isn't should be gone by now. Like
Yeah,
it's
washed
always
out.
like I can never get there. I can never get to the field. I can never get to the bus. The bus is pulling away. Yeah, I'm already going the game, and there's like, where's my face mask? It's missing off the helmet. What the heck happened? Where's my shoe? Where's that tee go? So it's either can't get into the stadium, or can't get to the game, or I can't get out of the locker room, or I can't get on the field for some reason. It's stupid, but
Still happens. Yeah, I think the thing that people maybe don't realize too is, you know, in those positions, if you have a couple bad games, that's a pretty good way not to play anymore, right? It's like you only get a couple shots to really mess it up, and it's like someone else is coming in.
yeah,
Or at least in the professional level. Maybe in college you have a little longer leash, but
a little longer leash in college, but
not much.
yeah, it never was like I never really felt like, oh, I've got this like wrapped up, or I've got a cushion there. I always felt like I was getting pushed all the time, which is good. We want to have competition, want to feel that, but it's just constantly just like trying to stay ahead and stay in good graces and try to get that next week beyond at least beyond the two deep, and or be able to go out there and help in some way, right? Contribute to the team, whether that was kicker, punter, or kickoff, or whatever. Like as long as I was on the field, I was happy. But I just felt like I want to be doing as much as I can and excelling at that. So, um, looking back, I wouldn't change, I wouldn't change the work I put into it. I felt like I did everything I could. I never felt like I should have done more or could have done more. So I'm happy with that. But how I did it, or the approach I take, and doing it in a more smart way, I think I could have done a lot of things different. Like you said, monitored my performance a little bit better, collect some data, get into a more like, I think even just like when I practice being focused on game-like situation versus just kicking for repetition. So sometimes that wasn't the smartest way to train. I rambled there. I don't know what we were talking about.
Yeah, no, I
Dreams.
think that's great. They would, we were talking about you missing the bus at Oregon. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
so
right.
it's yeah, no, it's great, great story. So I think
I had
um
another story about in the game. I had something similar happen to like you had with Michigan. This one was a home game. I think it was against Michigan as well. So in Kinnick, we have the really shallow sidelines. And when we'd have to warm up in the net, you'd have to like aim because I had kind of long stride and I had a pretty long approach to the ball. And so to make up that distance, like I can't actually squeeze it into the sidelines that easily. And there's all this kind of equipment and stuff all over during the game. So kind of have to like move things around a little bit and then you're kind of kicking at different angles. And so I was trying to warm up before a potential kick and trying to weave around and then there's like seats there, like little bleacher seats that we had that we could sit on. And there's, the net is like at an angle a little bit, and just so I could do my full steps and do some practice kicks in the net. And I remember it was like off a little bit, and I was like, I think I'll kick it right in through there. And somehow I pushed the ball and it missed the net. And it went over like on the right side of the net, and it went up into like where in this case would be the northwest end zone section. And so during the game, it didn't land on the field like your incident, but I just saw it launch up into the stands. I'm like, oh gosh, this is embarrassing. Like, who threw that ball up there? And I know that there was a handicap section where they would take the wheelchairs and bring them over. I was like, I just hope I don't hit somebody or like hurt somebody where this ball comes out of nowhere from the sidelines launching up into the stands. And so I think it was like 94 or something like that. So, but yeah, I don't even know if the kid got the ball back. I think I might have told the manager, like, I just ball up into the stands. I don't know if you can get the ball back or not, or someone's going to keep it, but sorry, oops. But then it's like things like that just kind of like mess with your head a little bit. Like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Now I got to go out here and kick the ball straight. I came kicking into a net. Yikes.
it's hard. It's a hard thing to do when you're not focused as you want to be, right? I mean, it's like when you're in the zone and you're like, got this, it's awesome. When you're not, you're just like, oh man, how do I get through this without just really botching this, right? It's like that either lack of confidence or focus or like, I mean, there's so many different things, right? You're 18, 19, 20 some year old kid, you had class, relationships, you had like all these other things going on in your life. And then it's like, okay, this Saturday, it's all on you, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to show up, you got to do well, you've got to, go through all these things. You're flying somewhere, you like might not sleep well. Like it's just a lot of stuff has to kind of go right to get into that headspace. And like, like you said, I think the good people can really like turn that on and turn that off and be like, wow, I just blew that. And then just be like, okay, I'm going on to the next piece for sure.
I think there was some superstition stuff that I would have tried to break myself from too, just like little stuff like routines or socks and sweatbands and like just stuff like that look back at silly and like uh favorite shirts, just like there's a lot of that happens in sports because some of it feels out of your control, I think. And so we feel like if I can take control back through my routines or what I wear or the patterns of how I do things, and that's going to have some kind of give me that slight advantage to make that ball go through the uprights instead of missing or something, like some of that was probably like it gets into your head too, like, oh wait, where's that shoe? Oh great, they don't have the right one. Oh no, that's going to mess up my day. And that's just more clutter to like, no, it's just go out and kick the ball. And it doesn't matter whether you how you tied your shoes, like it doesn't matter. So some of that stuff I wish I would have been smarter about. It wasn't too bad, but It was just like some of the stuff I was thinking about, just kind of silly, routine stuff you think makes a difference. It doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. But it's all comfort too, right? And like,
I think that's it. It just makes you
yeah,
feel like confident
you,
or comfortable.
you feel confident and you feel like, oh, this is
I
routine and
got
all
it.
that
Yeah.
structure for sure. Yeah, exactly. Um, you were telling me about a story from Rocky Rococo's.
Yes. Rocky Rococos.
You kind of
I think
like, you're a big pizza guy, right? You used to eat
I
Totino's
do like
pizza
pizza. Yeah. Yeah. We
every
did room together like the last couple of years, right? So I love my pizza for some reason. Just kind of gravitate toward that.
You still in the Totino's?
No, I don't do frozen pizzas
Oh, they went out of business, I'm sure, after you
anymore.
stopped.
Sure. I mean, I get the 89-cent Aldi's pizzas. That was a favorite. You know, cheap and did the job.
Yeah,
Wasn't
right.
that good, but hey, it's pizza. So yeah, and a lot of people at the time, there was a Rocky Rococo's downtown where there was a Burger King, and I don't remember what's there right now, but it was across the way from, well, right across from where Brothers is now on, like, I don't remember the streets, but right
Yeah.
where the fountain was, right there was a Rocky Rococo's Pizza. And so my first exposure to Rockies was in junior high. There was one on the southeast side of Iowa City near the Southeast Junior High. So when we had basketball practice, we had to, trade off depending on what time, because we only had one gym. And so the women had to practice, boys got to practice. So sometimes we'd have late practices. And so we would grab some food, and you could walk down from junior high to this pizza place. So they'd sell pizza by the slice. And so you get, like, if you had a dollar or two, you could get like at least a slice to eat, or some breadsticks or something. So I liked the pizza and kept going back there for my birthdays or any opportunity I had. And they had one downtown as well. So I think by the time I got to high school, they shut down the southeast one, but they kept the downtown one up. And so before, like, football games at home, football games in high school, I'd go down on Friday and get a slice of pizza or two. And that was like my routine for eating. Actually, even on road games, I think I'd go down for lunch and then we'd jump on a bus and drive somewhere for a game. So I think it was like every game I'd go and get pizza. And so I'd eat there all the time. And then going to college, that factored into my decision. Luckily, UNI also had a Rocky Rococo's Cedar Falls, so that didn't sway my recruiting decision at all. It canceled each other out, so that was good.
That's
But
awesome.
if they didn't have one, it would have made it a much easier decision. But so the downtown one I go to pretty often, even before I got to college. And then I think for the first couple of years at Iowa, it was there, and then they shut down. Now it's like based out of Wisconsin, so they still have them, but they're not in Iowa. But so that was like my go to, like, pregame meal. And after they shut down the one in Iowa, I think we were up in Wisconsin, and I knew that there was Rockies there. It's like, oh, that'd be cool if I could figure out a way to get some Rockies pizza. But there's no way. Like, our routine's tied up. Like, we're on a bus. I think we took the bus there to Madison, and then you go from the bus to the stadium, right? And so we go to the stadium and get a feel for the layout and walk the field, get used to the surroundings a little bit, go through a light workout. But it's just like it was a walkthrough, right? Couldn't even run. You weren't supposed to run. No one's doing anything of any kind of activity. But so from the stadium, then we go back to the hotel, or we go to dinner or something, and then to the hotel. Anyways, so we pull up in the hotel, and sure enough, there's a Rocky Rococo's right there next to the hotel. I'm like, no way. I have to get a piece of pizza now. Like, there's no way I can just, like, ignore this. Like, right next to the hotel. Like, I could probably even, like, sneak out. I was like, I can't get caught. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for that. Like, I'm just getting food, but I guess I could get in trouble. I don't know. I was just like, oh man, what do I do? So I went to the managers. I'm like, can you guys go, like, get me some pizza? I'll give you the money, but can you go grab me, like, a slice of pizza and some breadsticks from this place, like, next door? I don't remember who the manager was, but I think they hooked me up with that. Um, and so I got, like, my pregame meal again. So I was super happy about that. I had a good kick. I think I made a 50-yarder that game the next day. So then I was like convinced that it must have been
Pizza. So if the transfer portal was open back then, you'd have been moving to Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's always when I was wondering, like, what would it like? Would it be like if we had the transfer portal? Did I ever consider or would have transferred? I don't think I ever like would have considered that. I mean, I think if I had gone in and walked on and then hadn't played in the first 2 years, but felt like I was doing well and not seeing a pathway to play, I guess I would have probably considered leaving. Um, I know, like when I got recruited, Todd was a year older than me, and he was a scholarship guy from Florida, and he was a good kicker. So like, and he punted too. So I was like, I may not play till my senior year. And so if I think if I would have seen that I was probably going to play my senior year, I would have been okay and stuck around. If I saw that they had someone younger that was better than me, and I probably wasn't going to play, I probably would have looked at transferring maybe my last year just so I could play. But I could have also done maybe the grad year thing because I did graduate before the senior year. So I think you had to sit out back then if you transferred 1 year.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I think I could have done the grad thing where you don't have to sit out anyway. So, but I never, yeah, once I started playing, I was like, I'm riding this out the whole way because I think I'm good enough. I just gotta clean up some stuff here. So, but yeah, that would have been maybe consideration. But they had John Hall, and so he was
Oh
really
yeah.
good. He had a cannon for a leg. If people thought I had a good leg, that guy's leg was impressive. Like
Yeah,
I was just in awe. I was like, man, that guy has probably the best leg I've ever seen. And he was with it on the Jets with you, right?
for sure.
Yeah. So I couldn't have gone to Wisconsin anyway. He was way better. But yeah, that could have been a consideration. There was one near Minneapolis, so I guess I could have gone to Minnesota too. But at that point, I was like, I don't think I could transfer to another school. Like it couldn't have been a Big Ten school. I think that'd just be so strange. You just feel like it's such a weird situation to be like. I wouldn't ever like go to school where we would play Iowa. I think that would have been so weird.
Yeah, or just like leaving your kind of teammates in the lurch too, right? I think that would have been of a concern. I think at least for me of being like, oh, I've signed up for this, and these are the people I'm letting down, kind of thing. And then to come back and play against him, yeah, it would have been kind of crazy.
Yeah, if you left for like you're getting like recruited away because you did well, that's different. I think that mine only would have been like you were getting you weren't playing at all, and so you wanted to find a place to play. So you weren't really letting them down because they already had good enough players to play. But yeah, that is interesting. Like how to think about that. I know you're like thinking about what would it be like if we were playing these days with NIL that have changed things for us as specialists. I don't think it would have affected me at all unless Rocky Rococo's came in and said, we'll give you free pizza every week. That's about the best NIL deal I think I could have gotten at the time. And I would have happily taken it. Or Godfather's or whatever other pizza place I ran out of town because they had once Rocky shut down, I went to Pizza Hut and they had a lunch buffet special. And I'd hit that up all the time. And then they shut down because they couldn't make any money on college kids destroying that buffet. And then Godfather's had a buffet that was pretty affordable. It was like $4 over lunch, all you could eat. So I hammered away at that pizza. And then they went out of business. So I was like kind of cursed on these pizza places that I pick. Maybe it's me or I'm eating them out of their profits or something.
Did you do Sbarro or no?
A few times. That wasn't really that much of a go-to because there was always some other option there. I did Domino's quite a bit because they had pretty cheap pizza, especially for delivery.
Yeah.
When I wasn't on campus, but usually I was on campus for school or classes at that time, and then at night we were at training table. So then didn't really need to order pizza at that time.
Yeah. Home team had like a $6 pizza too, right? Some of those like one of those other businesses.
Yeah, what was it? Pizza Pit was there. I didn't have that too often. Little Caesars, I think, was there too. I liked it. So yeah, there's some good spots. Wing and Penn, I didn't really eat that much there. It's good pizza, but it's just too expensive for my budget at the time. So I didn't go there very often.
Because say I would say they had some really good pizza that was non-franchise stuff, right? That was like
Yeah, even at
very,
Gumby's, I think came in late in our years there. That was not bad. It's
oh
still
yeah,
there.
airliner, like some of those. I forget the others.
Airliner, go there every once in a while, but not as often. Again, it was a little pricey for my college budget. Yeah, we didn't have like a lot of spending money, even though we lived at the Ridge. It was like tough to just get through, like I had an apartment shared with high school friends. It was tough to just cover expenses. You got like $400. I think we had to spend at least 200 on rent, and then got a little for food and spending money, like just it wasn't even like buying food or buying clothes or anything. It's just like just enough to just have a couple bucks left over. So I was pretty finicky and just trying to keep my money. I didn't have any other income except anything you earned over the summer. Like you couldn't have a job during the school year because they might think it's illegal to, like you're not really doing the job and you don't have time to during the season. And it is a part-time job. It's 20 hours plus time for the games. So I have 30 hours commitment each week, plus you're doing schoolwork. So even if you had the time or it was allowed, you didn't have a chance to make any other money. So you make some money in the summer, moving furniture, detasseling, stuff like that. But yeah, it was tight. So yeah, I was always looking for good pizza buffet deals to keep that food intake going, so I could keep my weight up.
Yeah, for sure, right? That was difficult because you just didn't have the time and or weren't allowed to do that. Like if you didn't have the other support, then it was like, yeah, it was not an easy task to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you about the Apex uniforms. At some point, we got new uniforms.
That
And
was
our
the 94, 95 seasons. Yeah. The wings,
wings,
the
which we
banana peels or whatever you call it.
okay.
Um, I mean, I thought it was interesting that they were taking a shot at changing it up a bit. Um, so I guess I was excited as Coach Fry was kind of pumping us up for the idea of it. Then we saw it, and it's kind of like, ooh, I don't know about that. We'll pull up some pictures. I mean, they did the retro ones a couple years back. That was kind of cool. They weren't exactly the same, but they used the same kind of three stripes around the front. So I thought that was kind of cool that they played in a game with that not too long ago.
We got a shout out back in the day.
We did, yeah. It was just a couple years ago that there's a
I
picture
missed
of
that.
AJ Epinesa with
Yeah.
the retro look for those 2 years. Yeah, I think the story was Coach Fry became a sponsor of Apex. Maybe he invested. Who knows what the story is? But a bunch of teams switched over to these Apex jerseys, and they got them. I think they got them all for free as a way to like get their foot in the door for college football. And this is like you got two jerseys, home and away. That's it. There was no like special jerseys or anything. Like we got probably two sets of each one, just in case the first one got destroyed or ripped or something. And so, yeah, so that was pretty low cost at the time for jerseys. Now I don't know what they spent on jerseys, but it's probably crazy. They have like 4 or 5 versions, and if you're at Oregon, they probably have 12 versions. But the
Oregon has 300 different like
combinations of
combinations and combos. Yeah, they have like
so they might have 3 or 4 helmets and 7
yeah,
jerseys and
they have
4
a lot.
pants, and then that all adds up. Yeah, so so I think to cover a little bit of the cost of the jerseys, they gave them for free just so that we would use them. And they came up with kind of some of these funky designs. And so I don't think most people liked them. In fact, I don't know if anyone was really excited about them. But Coach Fry tried to sell it, said they're going to look flashy and look like we're speeding around and we're, like it looks like we're running without even running. And Yeah, I don't think that really came through in the design, but so we kind of suffered with those for a couple years. But I've heard people say they really like them, like in hindsight, that they think they're kind of cool. And it's like this little niche in time where the Hawkeye uniform changed since 19 whatever 79 when Fry came here. It's like that's when it kind of deviated a little bit from the standard look. So I think there's some affinities for those uniforms, but um, yeah, I liked when we went back our senior year to more standard look. I thought that looked a little nicer.
Yeah, I remember just getting heckled by the fans with those things, and like I don't think we were doing as well either. So it was just like a mix of like not doing well and people like, you guys look like an arena ball team. Like,
Yeah,
get out of here.
it did. Yeah, you're right. It did look like it was like a little too, not even ahead of the time. It's just different. And yeah, I don't know if anyone on the team really liked them. I think we just put up with them. It's kind of like doesn't matter, but um, they're okay to look at. But it's just, I mean, at least you in the photos you can tell what time period it was when you see those. You know, it's
Yeah,
either 94 or 95.
right. For
And as
sure.
we started to win, it's like, oh, maybe they're going to keep these, like, because that was the Sun Bowl. We had those uniforms, and then the next year looked pretty promising. And I thought, oh gosh, we're going to keep these uniforms because now we're winning. But they changed them over for the senior year. I think Apex might have gone out of business. That's probably what happened. So they're like, well, now we don't have to keep these free uniforms. Let's go back to our traditional ones.
Yeah, sure. At least we didn't have to wear the pony shoes. At least we had Reeboks that were a little bit nicer.
Yeah, we did have like, and it's so strange that we had basketball shoes for outdoor turf games. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that we had the Reebok pump. So it put, you
Oh
could
yeah,
pump the air into the
for sure.
sneaker. That was kind of weird. But yeah, we just missed the pony era for shoes. And we did Reebok. I think we were just a Reebok brand at the time, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about Iowa? You got any other Iowa stories you like?
Some memories, I guess, that stand out is like doing the stadium stairs, and training and running the stairs up, and counting 78 steps up to the top, and then we jog back down, run them back up again. We're pushing each other. And then I always remember like the morning workouts in the winter. It was like 5 a.m. start. We had to be there in the bubble. The bubble was frozen practically. You're going in there and it's like there's no heat on. It's just everyone's in sweatsuits and hats and gloves, and you got to be ready to go and perform. I think it was like a mental test of our ability to like get yourself up and ready to go at early morning. And then you had to kind of get through the rest of your day after you're exhausted and go to class and not fall asleep. And I think that became a problem for some players, but
That guy?
just yeah,
All
yeah,
the time. I'd like go to class and just be like,
yeah, because
completely
you're up
out.
at 4:30, and then you're trying to like time it perfectly so you get to that 5 minutes early, but not too early that you miss out on sleep. But it's a good bonding experience, getting to know everybody, and like the road games were always cool because it's like you really felt like a team. And like there's some important road games we had some good victories, like going up to Michigan State and beating them. Went to Penn State, won there. um Trying to think of some other good road wins, but um we up at Wisconsin 95, twice up in the Metrodome. I think we won 2 times there.
Is that the game that the gorilla guy in the gorilla suit went running?
Yeah, I think it's one of the two.
Yeah.
One of them was like, I think it was that game that was like 94. It was just like a shootout. It's like 49-42. I've seen that video. It's a very entertaining game. I mean, it was like flea flickers and muffed punts and interception returns, and I had a extra point blocked, but it still went through the uprights. And then like I think that was the one like Sherman caught a touchdown pass on a flea flicker from Dwight. It was just a wild game, but
Right.
I think people have mentioned like that was one of their favorite games to watch just because there was just so much action going on. So yeah, there's some really cool games like that. I think of our other schedule. Who do we play? What
Northwestern,
games?
Purdue,
Northwestern, Purdue. We had the tie at Purdue. That was
Iowa State, Tulsa.
94. At Iowa State, we talked about the win game in 93. And we went back up there 95. So that Iowa State game was kind of nice when we came back at home for my senior year. We had I'd gotten demoted after the 95 season the year before, after that Iowa State game up there. And so the next year, 96, they came back to Kinnick, and then that's where I had my longest field goal. It was like 54-yarder. And so that felt good to like kind of redeem that kind of demon of losing my job the year before to Iowa State, of all the teams, that it really stung a little bit. And then to kind of get some of that back with my longest field goal in that game.
Do you ever think of like jumping off sides or something? Do you push it back? So you're like, I'm more comfortable like from 35 to 50.
Yeah, this is too close. Yeah, let's back it up.
Too close. Like so
Take
just
a
you just
delay
don't go
game.
out there and you're like, okay, we got another delay game, another delay game. You're like, okay, I'm gonna hit this from 50. Like,
Yeah.
right?
No, never,
No.
never thought about that, but that would be smart to do, I think, with my weird success and weird stats that I had. I was
We're
more
too close.
accurate over 50 than I was inside 50, I think.
That's
Which is
interesting.
bizarre.
But you are relatively tall too, so you're kind of at a disadvantage. Most kickers are shorter, right? Shorter.
I
like,
think that's the trade-off, right? You have get more like momentum with the longer legs, but you can't get it in the same spot every time. So
a little more
less
variation,
consistent. Yeah. But I practice long field goals all the time, and I thought, that's one of the things I would say if I did something different. I practice long field goals thinking if I can make it from 55 yards, then I should easily be able to make it from 35 yards. But it's not. You have to practice those angles and those, and just hit the ball solid every time. I didn't always like focus on the mishits and what I did wrong, and just kind of teed up another one and fired away. So I didn't really study my mistakes as close as I should have. And so, but all that practice did pay off, and I was able to make a lot of long kicks.
You feel like I remember in your stance, you kind of would cock back sometimes. Would you feel like that worked for you or no?
I didn't like that. It looked funny. I mean, it was not by choice, or I thought that was a cool look. I wish I didn't have that technique, but that seemed to work for me. It somehow allowed me to get like my legs under the ball well, and also somehow my hip rotation kind of maximized the impact of the ball, and I could kick the ball pretty far that way. So it just kind of one of those things that kept tinkering with my technique, and that's where I ended up with. So yeah, it looked funny, and I wish I looked normal, like more like a traditional kicker in my approach and technique, but it seemed to work. So I was like, I'm not going to mess with it too much. I did start changing it up when I went to the Giants. So they had a special teams coach that tried to work with me a little bit. Said, let's try to take out some of this extra movement. You're actually ending up, your first step is normal from there on out, but you're starting strange, and it's taking up time, and you don't have that time in college. Like the pros, you're going to lose some of that time. Guys are faster. They're going to get to the ball quicker. Got to shave off some of that time. And so it's extra
your
inconsistency.
Slower. Yeah. Your delivery was slower, you're saying, in college because of that.
Yeah, you can get away with it in college. Said you can't get away with pros. So you got to shave off that extra time at the beginning where you're kind of, he's like, show me the film. He's like, look, after your first step, the rest of it looks very typical like every other kicker.
Yeah.
So let's just get rid of that kind of weird starting adjustment. But it was just there like to help me stay from getting too far ahead of my body a little bit.
Yeah, got it.
So I got rid of that as I progressed. And so after school, I signed up the Giants and went to training camp with them as a kicker. And I also punted while I was there. And I was going up against like Brad DeLuiso, and he was, again, to get on the team, you have to beat out the incumbent.
Sure.
And he had a good leg too. I mean, I saw him hit like a 70-yard field goal. So like he had a cannon too. And he was pretty accurate. He'd been in the league for at least 5 or 6 years at that time. It was a good camp in '97. I was so fortunate to just even get invited, because that after the draft, obviously I was pretty sure I wasn't going to get drafted. And then you're hoping that teams call you and ask you to come in as a free agent. I didn't really have much contact with schools. You know, I had the football office like fax out a data sheet for me, and I think I manually mailed VHS tapes out to different teams, hoping that they would see it, watch it, but I had no idea. The only time I actually interacted with someone was with Larry McDuff, the special teams coach for the Giants. He came out to train you because they were looking at signing a punter or drafting a punter. And you said, hey, you can come along with this tryout if you want. I think it was just like kind of, or maybe he said he's coming in and you could work out with us if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that piece.
Yeah. Well, so what happened is I was bombing the hell of the ball that day, and I think I outpunted you that day. And then I was also kicking, and he put us through like a bunch of agility drills. And I think we were up on the field hockey field. Anyways, it was like kind of windy, and I did really well that day. And then like, so he was really the only contact I had that had seen me like work out live, that was really like serious about signing somebody. So he called me up right after the draft and said, we're interested in bringing in to do a tryout. So he didn't really like sign me right there on the spot. He said, come do the tryout. We got a couple guys we're gonna bring in, see how you do. So then like that next week I was supposed to go out to New York and go to their facility and then go through a little workout and tryout. And then they decide from there who they were gonna sign into training camp. I was like, well, I don't have any other options. Obviously I'll take that. But then I just remember like you hadn't signed with anyone yet. And it's like, oh gosh, I just like ruined Nick's chance. He let me come try out, and I took his spot somehow with this tryout. And now he's not going to sign, and that's so messed up. And I felt bad. And then you signed. I was like, oh, phew. All right, he's in camp somewhere. Thank goodness. Like,
yeah, right.
I would have felt bad, like somehow I screwed something up for you, but so thankful that you let me do that, because I wouldn't have gotten into camp. So I was just ecstatic that I got into camp somewhere. That's, my main thing. I just want a chance, and see how I do. And so anyways, I went through this tryout. I did well in the tryout. So they signed me to training camp, and then I go out in the summer for a couple weeks. They put you up in a hotel. You practice with the team. Actually, it wasn't even the team. It was just like all like young guys for a little while. Maybe the team came in a little bit later for like non-mandatory workouts or something. And then you go back home and you continue to train. Then you go back out to training camp, and that was in another city. And you're there for 3 or 4 weeks. And then the last week, I think they decide on the major cuts after the 3rd preseason game, and then they do one more preseason game, and then they do the final cuts, right? So that year, obviously, I realized I wasn't going to beat out Brad, but I was punting well, and during the summer, I was really like the best punting I was doing that time, and they had drafted Brad Maynard, so he was the punter, but there's days I was competing right with him punting, even though I was there as a kicker. I was trying to do both just to show him like I could do some other things. Maybe you need a backup, maybe I could get on practice squad or something.
Yeah.
So that '97 season went pretty well, and then but I got cut, and I expected it. It wasn't a shocker. Came back, and I was trying to just keep working out, hoping someone would sign me later, or I got one extra point in a game at Baltimore. I got a couple kickoffs here and there. I struggled a little bit going to the 1-inch tee on kickoffs. And I struggled when went to Iowa going from 1-inch tee down to the ground on field goals. That took me a whole year. I needed a redshirt year to get adjusted to that. And so my kickoffs were good, but that 1-inch going from 2-inch to 1-inch tee threw me off. I didn't like adjust to that as well, and I lost some distance on my kickoffs. So Brad was a really good kickoff specialist. So even if I was kicking really well, I don't think I would have even beat him on kickoffs. So
Yeah,
it was a great experience.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying I would think like back then, if you had a booming leg on kickoffs, they would have put up with, and you could have punted. That you probably had a better chance of doing it than I did. Because if you could do
I don't know.
things,
There
right?
weren't any guys doing all three. I mean, that was unheard of. There's just
But there was a couple guys that I think they brought in Indianapolis, or somebody brought them in, and they just kicked off because they just were that good a kickoff specialist.
And Brad Deluiso was a kickoff specialist in Denver, and that was his job first. And then Jim Fossil left Denver and took over the Giants job, and then something like that. He had a connection, and then he took over kicking. He got accurate enough that he was a kicker, and then it was also kicking off. So yeah, he was at the time. They did have kickoff specialists back then, but my kickoffs weren't booming because I was struggling on that 1-inch difference on that kickoff tee.
Yeah, that's a huge difference, right? And that's one of the interesting things for me is like they do so many things to mess with the specialists, right? It's like they bring in brand new balls, right? You're not allowed to break those in, which is like that's part of it. We
heard the stories. I got so many cool stories from like how they used to prepare the footballs before games and like beat them up, throw them in the dryer, and kind of loosen them up so that you could launch those balls. Because once they're broken in, they go a little further. Then they cut down on that. So now you're kicking like brand new balls out of the package. Basically, it's still like slick. It's like this is ridiculous. At least do something to like.
It's not even fair.
It's not even fair. It's just like I don't know what the analogy is. It's like taking a basketball and just saying, here you go, just took it out of the package and put it in a game. It's like it's slippery. It's like it's got to get bounced around a little bit. I get it. You don't want to abuse it and take advantage, but it was dumb. But it hasn't really stopped the progress of the kicking. It's just got better and better. No matter what they do, they shorten the uprights. They move back the extra points. Move back the kickoff distance is still the guys just get better and better every year. So they have to do something, or it's just going to be like everyone's making all their kicks. But it did kind of suck because it's hard to compare what you're doing. It's like, am I getting better? Am I getting worse? Or is it the ball that's causing me to be worse?
But I also it's a business, right? It feels like it's workplace discrimination in some factor. And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, like it's limiting people, right? It's limiting people and like people that were able to do it before. And now it's like, because there's like Hall of Fame recognition and some of these other things. It just seems like they're like, oh, we're just going to tweak these things and keep messing with this specific group and really no one else, right? They're making it easy for the quarterbacks and some of these other positions. But
the records are hard because it does change enough that it's not apples to apples in a lot of cases. And you're seeing that with all sports, right? As they tweak things and the rules in baseball, basketball, and stuff. It's hard to compare different genres and decades and say that's apples to apples. It's just not. It's different, but the athletes keep getting better every year. So it's like, I guess that they try to keep it a little more competitive, or the kickers are getting too good that it wasn't really fair. I don't know, but it was something that's
media thing, right? Yeah, it's a media thing of like, how's the game to watch? And I think baseball's a prime example, right? They want the game to be faster because people are like, I don't want to sit around for a 2-hour game, so they put in the
stop clock,
pitch clocks or whatever. So it just seems like it's kind of a really overbearing, like, not burden, but it's an overbearing thing on just one position where it's like, that's really not, that's not fair. Like if someone actually saw what a brand new ball looks and feels like compared to like a regular ball, it's like night and day
Yeah,
difference, right? And like,
I didn't like that at all. Yeah, it didn't seem fair. It did seem like
especially in
really
weather,
harsh.
cold and whatever else, it's like, yeah, it's a huge difference. It's probably, you know, 5 yard difference, some of it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can tell the difference. I'm sure
Nice.
it's measurable. I'm sure if you put it up to a automatic kicking machine, it would, or a jugs machine, like it would perform differently for sure.
Definitely.
So
Um,
I'll just continue on like my pro, my ventures into pro football. But so after I got released, I didn't do anything else that rest of the year. Just kept working out just in case someone called. But yeah, I didn't expect to get called. Like they're not gonna put me in a game with very little experience. Um, so then going into 98 season, I was trying to, get on another team, but um, the arena football team reached out, the Barnstormers. And this is like in the summer of 98. So they'd have the draft and I hadn't got signed anywhere. But their summer season was starting or something like that. I don't remember. I'll have to look at the exact dates. Maybe it was May. Anyways, there's around that about that time the arena season started. Well, the Barnstormers had lost their kicker for the year. And Jim Foster, I think, had thought that I could do well in arena football for some reason. So he got a hold of me and I was working a job at like ACT in Iowa City and still working out and training, but it's like, hey, I want you to come try to do a tryout with the Barnstormers. We lost our kicker. We needed a kicker for this weekend. It was like I want to say it was like a Wednesday or something, and their game is on Saturday. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I don't have like I have to get off this job. I could get out of this job, I guess, but I guess I can come up for a tryout. So I drove up to Des Moines and
like,
um,
what's your pizza situation look like?
let me do a little research first.
You're like, hold on, let me check this out.
So yeah, I got up there and it's like I can't remember if there was a couple people there, but I did well. You can actually use a tee in arena football. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go back and use a tee then if I can. Why not? It's like
Use a
kicking
T
off the
to
ground to kick
field
field
goal.
goals. Yeah, that was
Oh
allowed
wow.
still. Yeah. So I was like, I'll bring out the LT again. I just used the little 1 inch tee. I didn't want to have it like 2 inch. It might really be like I'd be back to like high school days, and I think it would really throw off my approach. So um, got they said we're going to sign you for the first game. So I guess I did well enough, and they liked my kickoffs. So I was hitting them up high on the net, and that slowed down the returners, and that allowed them to get down there and cover pretty well. Um, so like,
So you
okay,
can
you can hit
bounce
the net. Yeah, so it can
with the
bounce
net
off the
and you grab
net.
it off the net.
Yep. And if it comes off at the wrong angle, it's free ball. And so you can recover those and take possession if they don't catch it cleanly off the net. So if you hit a post or something, it bounces funny.
Yeah.
And so they liked my kickoffs especially, and then my field goals were good enough. And I was getting more accurate because at the Giants, like I said, I was practicing my consistency, and I was like hammering on that because I knew like I can't be as erratic as I was. I can't be like, oh, I got to be able to make 25-yard field goals consistently. So I
Yeah.
really hammered on the consistency, and I even cut back on the distance because it's like that's not what most of the kicks are happening. Most of your kicks are inside 40. So I got to be able to make those kicks. So my accuracy
Well,
was getting better.
and you had someone to kind of guide you to be like, hey, stop doing that, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the big thing, right?
right. And he was looking at like this, you're doing too many things. You got too many moving parts here. It's not going to get your consistency. He was right, and so that was good. So played the first game and um, I don't remember the exact years, but we played like the defending champions in the Arena League, and I did well. I had a 55-yard field goal, like my first field goal attempt. Um, so they were like, "Well, that's great! It broke a like team record." And so I was like, "All right, this isn't too bad, even though it's like half the size of the uprights. I think it's like 12 feet or 9 feet
I
uprights,
was gonna say, yeah, the uprights are
really
skinnier, right?
narrow. Yep, yep, yep. And
55
so
yard, 5 yard field goal, like you back in like the tunnel.
yeah, it's 63 is like the maximum you can hit if you're on the back end zone line.
Okay.
So that would be like I was on like the near the goal line, of the
Yeah.
other side, so. Yeah, so I was like, all right, cool. And then we ended up losing the game, but I think I kicked pretty well. I had some good kickoffs. I think we recovered one of the kickoffs too. So um, maybe I made another field goal. And then because it was funny, like when I signed like the contract, they lay out like what you're gonna make. I wonder if I can dig that up. But it has stuff like if you make a field goal, it's $100. And if you have a touchback, it's $50. And every extra point you get like $25 or something, or it was like incentivized by the thing. And I was like, wow, this is so weird.
Yeah.
That it's like broken down by what you do is how much you get paid. So I thought that was
Per game.
pretty strange. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if I can dig that up here.
Was it possible to kick over the net on a kickoff?
It's possible. Yeah. I did it once. I did a few times in practice, but we played a game in Houston and I got a hold of one and it went right over the top and it's a touchback. But I remember there was people like kind of shut some people up in the stands because they were like, screaming because they're right next to you.
Yeah.
And you kick off on one side of the field to like kind of maximize your room to kind of cut across the field a little bit. And they were like right there screaming. And I launched that ball over the net. And then it was kind of like, oh. And so they kind of shut up after that. So it's kind of like, yeah, take that. But yeah, it didn't happen that often. But yeah, a couple times I got a hold of or that one time I really got a hold of one, put it over a net. And it's not always, I don't know if the dimensions were perfectly the same everywhere. But yeah, that was kind of cool.
If the ball went in the
Yeah.
stand, you get to keep it.
Yeah, that was the kind of little promo that they would use. Like if the ball went in the stands for any reason, overthrow pass or a kick that went over the net. So on extra points, I'd put them over the net too, and they get to keep them. So they probably didn't like it because I was using a 1-inch tee and I can get higher on the ball, and I was hitting them pretty hard, So I probably hit half of them over the net on the extra points. So they gave away probably quite a few footballs, but it's like, hey, I'm just trying to do my job, like, and just trying to get the ball through. I'm not gonna focus on keeping it in the net so you don't lose too many balls. And they never said anything to me.
Yeah. And so like your base was pretty low though, right? What was it like $300 a game or something?
No, that was the other arena league I played in. This one is
Okay.
probably like $500 plus incentive. So it felt like it came out to about 1,000, 1,500 a game, which is
Okay.
pretty good. You play like, I don't know how many games you played, 14, 16 games maybe. So you could make okay money for a couple months of work. So it is, it's professional football. So I feel like I'm actually getting paid for it. You get like I got a signing bonus with the Giants in '97 for like $5,000 or something like that. Really just kind of cover expenses while I was, training and couldn't really keep a job when you're trying to prepare. So that just
Yeah.
kind of covered the basics. So I didn't really count that as pay. And you don't get paid in the NFL until you make a team. So when you're in training camp, I think they give you like $500 for incidentals and like bills you have to pay, just the spending money to have. So I don't really count that as pay. So this is the first time I'm actually like making money as a kicker. So it's kind of, and so then I go to a game in Orlando and just have an atrocious game. Couldn't hit anything. Just one of those days that just things didn't work out. And it's one of those games that like they kicked a lot. They couldn't move the ball. So we tried 7 field goals. I missed the ball and I missed the extra point. I think it was just like the worst experience. And then they didn't fire me after the game, but I think I overslept the next morning. Somehow my roommate ended up leaving and I slept in past the alarm and I got a call. They're like, where are you at? We're leaving. And so I threw all my stuff in a bag and raced down and, got on the bus again. And again, coach is glaring at you like, what is wrong with you after that awful performance? So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to survive this. So I've done okay before. Is just that game was just awful. And then I came back and we had one more game at home, but they didn't have time to sign anybody. So I got to stick around one more week, and I almost made a game-winning field goal at the end, but just barely missed it. It's like a 50 something and just a little bit left. And so it went into overtime, and then they ended up losing in overtime. And then the next week they let me go, and they brought in the other guy that I think is in the early tryouts with me that I beat out. And then he took over, but they said that they wanted to keep working with me, and I could come each week to like practice. And they'd give me like $100 to pay for gas and stuff. I'm like, all right, I'll drive up, to Des Moines for a couple times a week, just to keep practicing with the team. And that they also, I guess the kicker they signed was getting married on one of the weekends because
Oh, wow.
he had given up his job. He was like a garbage collector, and he like had to quit his job or leave his job to do this kicking job. So I think he's lived in Minnesota or somewhere. So he's like, I gotta be assured, like, if I'm given this job, you can't like put us in competition. You gotta give me. I'm not coming down for competing for this. You're gonna give me the job. So they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
But they kept me around because I think they knew that they would need someone to fill in that game as well. And so I kept coming to practice and stuff and trying to get better at it. I thought maybe they thought I could maybe be someone they'd sign again next year with a little bit more practice and get better. And so the game that I actually filled in for them while he was getting married, then we go out and play in San Jose, and I got my first attempt for a game-winning field goal. There like 20 seconds left, and I made it. And then they came down into that arena game. Like, if you have 5 seconds, that's plenty of time to score. And I think there's probably like 15 seconds left. So they got down and they tried a field goal attempt. It wasn't Pete Stoyanovich, it was his brother.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know if you were on the Dolphins with Stoyanovich when he was there.
Chiefs.
Chiefs. Okay, so
Yeah.
I knew he had some connection there. But his younger brother was the kicker for San Jose, and he ended up missing a longer kick.
Okay. Nice.
So then I end up being a game-winning field goal. So that was kind of a nice end to that season, I guess, towards the end that I got to redeem myself a little bit, get my first game-winning field goal. But the whole time I never had a game-winning field goal made. I think in high school I attempted one when I was a sophomore in the sophomore team, and it got blocked. So I never really saw what happened. It felt good, but
Yeah. Was Matt Sherman at the Barnstormers when you were there?
nope. Larry Blue was on the team,
Oh, was okay.
so that was cool. At least I knew somebody, and then yeah, it was a really interesting experience too. But I didn't know if I was good enough to keep making it to arena. So I wanted to get like another chance at NFL, and I thought punting would be my way in because I punted well in '97. So I finished up grad school because I had, Iowa paid for the first year of school when I was a senior, right? So I said, oh no, and I just finished my grad school. So I think in '98 I'd gone back after I took a year off for the Giants. I started finishing up my classes in the fall because I wasn't signed anywhere. And then I graduated '98, I think, with my graduate degree. And then I was like, I'm going to start looking for a job. I'll still try to keep doing football and try to get assigned to get the NFL, but now I got to pay some bills. And I'd like to have a steady job for once and make some real money. So I got a job at the aerospace company, Rocky Rococo, in January of '99. So I was there maybe like 6 months. And then I was talking with Brad DeLuiso. He's like, hey, we don't have a punter in camp. Are you still punting? I'm like, yeah, I've been still working out and stuff. And I'm doing more kicking because of arena, but I was still punting and keeping my leg fresh. He's like, well, I'll talk to Coach McDuff and I'll see if they want to bring you back. Okay, cool. And he said, yeah, they're open to signing you again to come out. And now you'd be a punter this time. You need to compete with Brad Maynard again, since you did well the first time. And I was like, whatever. So I was like, well, I guess I'll go talk to my company and see, like, are they gonna be okay with this, me leaving this job that I've had for 6 months? I think it was like late in August. It was like a week or two before training camp started. So
yeah,
I guess I'd been there like 7, 8 months. And they said, well, here's the deal. Technically, you are leaving for another job and a competing job. I'm like, not really. I'm not a statistician. I am going to be a professional football player, not a statistician. I'm not going to pursue another job in your sector. Like, they're like, well, we don't distinguish between the types of jobs. It's you're leaving for a job. So only way you could do this is you have to A, quit, resign. B, you have to take a leave of absence, which you could have for, I think, 3 weeks leave, or 2 weeks of leave, no, 2-week leave of absence.
yeah.
Where we hold you on the staff and you don't get paid. But after 2 weeks, if you don't come back, then you basically get fired because you didn't return from your leave of absence. So we said, how much vacation do you have? That's like, I got about, I guess, a week of vacation stored up from the 7, 8 months I worked there. So well, here's what you can do. You get 3 weeks then. You could do 1 week vacation and then kick in your 2-week leave of absence. I was like, well, I guess I'll know by the 3rd week if I'm going to make the team or not, because that's when the cuts happen. So I was like, I guess I'll do that. They said you can't make any money while you're there either. So you have to kind of like just struggle.
Forfeit it?
Huh?
You had to forfeit the money that we're going to make?
Yeah, basically they said, like, you can't, if they give you money, you have to return it. So like, all right, well, I guess I'll figure that out. Like,
We'll donate
so,
some.
yeah, I know. I mean, they're just like, well, we're not going to check your bank accounts, but legally you're not supposed to make money while you're on your leave of absence. So I was like, okay. So I said, all right, I think I still want to do this. Like, and if I make the team or is looking good, then obviously I'll have to quit.
Yeah.
So that was kind of strange situation, but they were pretty good about it. I mean, they tried to work with me and say, I know this is a unique, let's see what we can come up with here, but it's a little unusual. So they let me take that leave of absence, and then I went to camp right on the first day and competed, and I did okay. I didn't punt as well as I had punted 2 years earlier. It just wasn't in the same like rhythm and routine and training as much as I was before. So I didn't do as well as I was hoping I would. And so they're kind of like, well, maybe we should have had you do the tryout first to see how you were still kicking. And I was like, I'll get better. And I got better throughout the camp, but then it was, it was clear that I wasn't going to beat out Maynard. It was probably unlikely I would anyways, but so here we are. It's the cuts are on Monday, but I have to be at work Monday or I get fired.
Jesus.
So I go into the coach Jim Fossil, and I'm like, so I know the cuts are Monday, but if I'm not back at work, my other job Monday, they're gonna let me go. And if you're gonna like let me go, can you let me know right now so I can just head back and get back to work on time? He's like, yeah, we were gonna let you go on Monday. So this is like a Sunday or something. And they just like throw together these like flights last minute, so they're like, okay, yep, grab your stuff and we'll get you a flight as soon as possible and get you back to Iowa so you can get to work Monday. So that's what happened. So within like, I don't know if it was like a Saturday or Sunday, but it was pretty quick turn. And that same day I was on a plane back home. So and I show up to work, like, all right, didn't work out. So I want to make sure I still got my job. So
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Did you have any other tryouts or anything after that, or
No, that was it. That was it. And then after that, so that was 99. And then 2000, I was just working in Cedar Rapids, and I think I still lived in Iowa City. Or no, I just moved up, or was thinking about moving up to Cedar Rapids because the commute was getting kind of old going from Iowa City to Cedar Rapids. And so they started up an Arena 2 league in the Quad Cities. And I was like, oh, this could keep me active a little bit. I've already been in Arena. The one of the coaches on the Barnstormers, it was his son that was going to run the team, to be the coach. So I was like, I knew I had to in a little bit, or at least someone knew who I was. So I thought maybe his dad would put in a good word for me. So they were starting this team up, and that was the one that was like $200 a game. I was like, well, I don't really need the money. I'm just doing it for kind of stay active, and maybe it'll turn into something. Who knows? And it's only about an hour away. I can get there. And I talked to him. I was like, this is my deal. I'm working full time, but I like to kick still. And so we said, yeah, we don't need you there every game or every day to come to practice. But if you can come like at least once during the week and then come out for the games, that should be okay. We can probably work with that if you win the tryouts and stuff like that. So I end up, getting the job, and I played there for 2 seasons, and we did really well. We won the championship both years. So that was the first time we've ever been on a championship team in any sport, really. We never won conference, never won state in anything, never won in Iowa, we never won anything other than like a bowl game. But so that was kind of cool to get my first like championship in a sport. So we did that 2 different years. So that was pretty fun. And it was just kind of just for fun. And then after that, I did a little semi-pro, just kind of stay active. But that was so disorganized. They almost got hurt a few times. I'm like, this is dangerous. It's not even like, it's not worth it anymore. I got to just hang it up. So that was probably about the same time. Oh, that was probably like 2004, 2005. I knew some of it was down here in Florida when I was moved down. So it must have been 2005 at the latest. And then I was kind of like I was pretty much done at that point.
Gotcha. What was the name of the team in the Quad Cities?
It's Quad City Steamwheelers.
Okay, got it.
Yep. And I think they're still active. They've been on and off active over the years, but we had a 20-year reunion. I think it was 20 years, 2000.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah, 2001. I think it was 2021 when I went up there for a 20-year reunion of the championship teams. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. That was my football career there.
Wow, that's wild. It's a great story about this going to work. Like, jump off a camp right into a real job. That's wild.
Yeah, and I had like one punt in the preseason and I shanked it, like 30-yarders. And so that was one they played on TV. It was against the Vikings, and I get back and they're like, "Yeah, I saw your punt." They didn't even show it on the screen. It must have gone off the sidelines. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like, thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for
that. Yeah. And the Giants camp was what, like up in upstate New York, right?
Yeah.
Albany? Yeah.
So then do that for a couple weeks, and then when they start, I don't remember, 2 or 3 weeks, and then they bring everyone back to the facility, and then I think that last week is when they bring everyone back. After they do the cuts, then they bring everyone back to Meadowlands, and then start get people like set up in their apartments and whatever. A lot of people would just find an apartment for the season, and then they might live somewhere else. It was kind of surprising how many didn't actually live in New York. It's just so volatile with the NFL. Like, you don't know how long you're going to stay unless you got like a long-term contract or something. But I know like Brad never moved. He always just came in, found an apartment, stayed there till the season's over, and then his family was back in California. And they come out and visit every so often for games, or sometimes hit up some road games. But it was kind of a strange dynamic.
But that's sort of a weird setup, right? With them sharing with the Jets too, and kind of it's out in the middle of nowhere. So where would you live? Like in Montclair or someplace?
Hasbrook Heights, some of those areas. There's a lot of those neighborhoods north of the stadium. But yeah, you couldn't get into the city very easily. So most people stayed in New Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah, that was tough. I remember when I was at the Jets, Wayne Corbett lived in the hotel that was like nearby,
Hmm.
just like right down the road. I was like, that's pretty cool. It's like
Yeah,
never have to
because
take
they're
your bed. That'd be amazing.
right. And if you like, that's not your. Well, I thought he was actually from New York, so that kind of surprises me. But maybe it didn't live that close.
He was from around there somewhere, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
Long Island.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure if I remember.
But I think a lot of guys didn't live there. They just got temporary housing till the season's over and then go back to their regular homes.
Yeah, I got it. Suppose were the Giants good back then? I forget.
Um, let's see, 97, they did okay. I think maybe they made the playoffs. 99, they did okay. But 2000, they went to the Super Bowl and lost.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Um, so they had good talent there. I think it's like that was Michael Strahan's. Not I don't remember how many years he kept playing after that, but quite a few. But he was just starting to become a star in the league. Kerry Collins was there, Penn State. Monty Toomer from Michigan. Um, Jason Sehorn was on the team. Who else is on there? I'll have to look at the roster. Oh, Dan Campbell was on the team in '99. He was a tight end.
Oh, was it
Yeah,
the Lions guy?
yeah. Lions head
Oh,
coach. Yep, yep.
Tiki Barber was probably there, right?
Yeah, Tiki Barber. Yep. Oh, there's another coaches. Sean Payton was an assistant coach. Um, Jim Fox later was a head coach at the Panthers. He was
Okay.
assistant coach.
Yeah, well.
A couple other good coaches went through there too.
Did you see any players when you were like bouncing around the NFL that you were just like, oh wow, they are just so much better than everyone else?
Um, yeah,
Everyone like
some
stood out.
athletic freaks. Yeah, I mean, Jason Sehorn was, you know, an athletic freak. It's not about the way your appearance or how fast you are. It's like, do you know how to play the position and do it well and know your role on the team? I think that's, yeah, that must have had a knack for that. Um,
I think a
so
lot of it
yeah,
was the consistency too, right? It's like coaches want to know like you may not be the best athlete, but like
can they trust
to know
you?
that
Are you
yeah,
gonna,
it was
are
like
you reliable? Are you a hard runner? Like, can you do the
yeah,
job? Can we trust you and know that what we're going to get?
98% of the time you're going to show up and do this, and they just will be like, okay, I'll take that over some kid who's like good one day and not the next. So yeah,
And
just like
yeah, runs around routes, doesn't know playbook. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just a great experience. I just felt lucky to even get into camp. I mean, how many kickers did they sign? They don't. Not every team signs a rookie
yeah,
kicker to come to camp. So we're talking about there's probably a dozen spots open each year for a punter or a kicker into camp. I don't know. They're not signing 30 guys out of each class. So they got all the free agents from the previous years are open to sign. So just to get into camp, I was just stoked. And
yeah,
then get
you're
another chance.
welcome.
Yeah, no, right.
I'm joking.
Thanks. Seriously
Completely
though, I
joking.
wouldn't
Yeah,
have. I seriously, if you wouldn't invite me over there, I wouldn't get signed. No doubt about it. No way.
I don't know about that. Well, that is quite a story, sir. A lot of stuff I didn't even realize. Who's who are you looking forward to interviewing? Who's on your dream list?
Dream list, yeah. Probably some of the older guys that I grew up watching as a kid. So I think we can get Chuck Long on. So he was our D-backs coach when we played. So we got to in there. He knows us a little bit. I've talked to him over the years. I'm sure you have too.
I've seen him in a while, but yeah, that'd be interesting. Hear his
I'd like
story.
to talk to Stoops, Bob Stoops, get him on. I don't know if we can, but maybe he's got a little more time to do that. He's a cool story. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. So, like, obviously, Rob Howland. I've connected with Tom Nickel. So I think I'd like to get him on, hear about his time as a kicker with Roby. Um, so some of those guys come to mind. I've heard some interviews with some of the other guys in the past, so a little bit of their background. But I think some of the other older guys, like, like just some of the Hartlibs were awesome. John Hartlib, Jim Hartlib was a year before I think we got there, but He's a super nice guy.
Heck yeah, that'd be fun.
I mean, then just like I want to get Hornaday on, like just some of the guys that just bust out laughing. I mean, Willie Guy. I mean, some of those guys, I never cried so hard in my life of just laughter and just like tears. I can't breathe. I'm laughing so hard. Like
yeah,
him and Dupre. I mean, those two, we'd sit there and just listen. We didn't say a word, but just constant jokes. I mean, I don't know how I got my food down the whole time. It's just like crying with laughter, or we're just like stretching and Willie's yelling out something and they're going back and forth and I'm just like busting up. And I took things really seriously and it was nice, like that comic relief I needed to like chill out. It's just football, like relax, have fun. And they just knew how to have fun. And I just like, I wish I'd embraced that a little bit more and enjoyed myself instead of being so serious all the time and just, so I needed that kind of comedic relief and it was just so funny. Like all those guys is hilarious. So yeah, get some of those guys on there and so everyone else can like hear their personality and then just some like not even guys people would know. Just good dudes and they might not even played, but key guys on the team and yeah, I don't know. What were you thinking about?
I think I want to talk to Matt Sherman. I'm excited if he would do it.
Yeah, you should.
Um,
Sure, we can get it.
yeah, I think there's like, yeah, just a bunch of characters like Tavian Banks and Rich Willock and some of those guys are just like just funny dudes. Yeah, like yeah, Hornaday and Matt Ide and those. I mean, we should get those two guys,
Yeah.
those three guys on together would be.
All together, we'd never get anything done.
Could you imagine?
That
We
would
just
be out of
laugh
control.
and tell jokes the whole time. Like, yeah, that was funny. That was
We just get out of the way. We just like shut our cameras off and just let them
yeah, we just let those
talk
guys
for 3 hours.
yeah.
That would be awesome.
Sure. So, yeah, it'd be cool. Like, yeah, the Marv Cooks and the Chuck Longs and those
Yeah.
we didn't. And then, yeah, some of the younger guys too. I mean, I guess like my brother's age, there's a whole crew through there, like Dallas Clark and
Yeah.
Jared Klaus.
Eric Steinbach.
Yeah, Eric Steinbach and yeah, those type guys that I know some, and then yeah, some of the younger guys. So yeah, I think a lot of it, and just some of the other staff and some of that piece too, right? I think it'd be interesting just to hear all those things, maybe get on some of the managers and like what their lives were like, and yeah, I think it's a lot.
Yeah, actually, I know that's something that they were unsung heroes of the program, but like they were so key to like making things run smoothly, and they were just made things easy for us, and you kind of don't appreciate them as much as should have. And yeah, they were definitely a key part of the team. Yeah, I think some of those guys getting them on and letting them tell stories maybe of things we didn't know about at the time or forgot to. I mean, they had a different perspective. So yeah, that'd be cool to get them on. And I know Ed Raleigh just had like his 80th birthday the other day, and maybe hear some of his stories of like treating people and getting them ready for games.
Oh yeah, John Streif, like all sorts of people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a story I'd never heard about that like they're trying to get Tavian ready for a game. They put him in a hyperbaric chamber, try to like loosen up his like a muscle injury. And it seemed to help a little bit. I'm like, I don't remember that at all.
Wow.
So like, what were they experimenting with, testing out, like rehab and treatments and stuff like that? Yeah, that's like all kinds of stuff. I'm sure we had no idea things happening, but yeah, I think that'd be even guys that never met before. I think that'll be cool to hear their experience.
Yeah, be hearing it for the first time, right? Some of these things we kind of know secondhand, but yeah, I think people would want to know what that feels like to be like, okay, I got to go out and kick this field goal, and like, oh shit, I just missed it, or oh shit, I made it. Like, it's just no one has that experience. Even the guys we played with are still probably like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't. You explaining the ups and downs of a game, it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, third down and this and that. This is a pick. It's picked off. Then it's like fumbled, and it's like they score, and you're like they don't. It's brought back, and you're just like, yeah, this like roller coaster, right? I've just been like, I'm ready. I'm not. Oh, I gotta get ready again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
are we gonna go out, or you got to do quick kick and like rush out, no huddle, get yeah, it's a lot of things to think about. You want to stay on top of it because you don't want to be
Yeah.
like field goal team and you're like, oh crap, where's my helmet? Like
Yeah,
you had
right.
to be on top of it all the time and you're ready, mentally ready every time to go kick. And it's most of the time you didn't kick, but you had to get ready like you were going to kick 30 kicks and you kicked three. And so
Yeah, sure.
27 times you were ready to go and you didn't. So yeah, it's interesting position, but
It's a pretty lonely, it's a pretty weird experience going out to do it as well, right? Because you're kind of like you're by yourself. You're kind of like, yeah, it just it's a weird feeling running out in the field because you're kind of like, oh wow, this is like you're in the middle of this thing, right? There's nothing else
and
around
spotlight
you.
on you. Yeah,
You're a
spotlight
spotlight
on you.
on you, and you're just like, all right, you could be, yeah, like I'd be backed up to the end zone sometimes. You just kind of like that. Then it's like, boom, it's over with, and it's like, wow, shit, what just happened, right? At least for me, it was. It's kind of just like you
Yeah.
black out. And you're like, oh, that went well. It's like, oh god, that was terrible. I always thought it would be interesting if you could take out the emotional part of sports and you just like it'd be just pure like athleticism, right? You'd be no nerve, you wouldn't be nervous, you wouldn't like where you just pure performance, right? It'd be wild.
Yeah.
It'd be like people like just you wouldn't you'd be like, oh, I messed that up. You just be like, see what you can
Okay.
do. Yeah.
That would be a way different sports experience. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine just like everyone's just like, oh well, okay, you're good, you're better than that person is.
Yeah, it
That's
would
right.
just be like, just take 10 kicks and just try to kick as far as you can. I mean, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you just like, oh, I just made all those and didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
They did
No,
it.
I think the people that are really good at it, especially kicking, is the ones that can completely block it out of their head and not be nervous and not care what the outcome is. It just do their thing and be the most relaxed and most like comfortable and make it almost like a practice experience and probably do the best they can, But once you throw in pressure and nerves and stuff, it starts affecting your body. I mean, you can feel it sometimes. That pressure gets on you, and you start feeling like you tense up a little bit, and your muscles get tighter, and you feel more fatigued, and your legs, like it definitely has an impact. And then you throw a helmet on, and throw shoulder pads on, and then throw crowd pressure and noise. Yeah, it's not easy. I always think like it's kind of like kicking is like golfing, except everyone's screaming at you, and big, huge people are coming at you while you're swinging. Yeah, so just like golf, except that, yeah. And you got
Exactly.
to hit it right into a specific spot. You don't have like a fairway, and you don't. It's not like, oh, your round's over if you miss the fairway. You can recover if it doesn't go where you want it to go. So
There was a quote, him just saying that you have to be able to like have that go terribly wrong and then just like be able to churn right out of it.
hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you if I can find it, but it was like, yeah, kind of nuts. Like you could see where those guys are like just able to just be terrible at something and then turn right around and just come right back. And
It is the mental part of it. As you get better, the talent. I mean, I think that's what we saw, right? In the NFL, the talent difference is not that big. Even a rookie to a veteran, I mean, there are some differences, but it's not that extreme anymore. And so what wins out is the little stuff and the mental side of it. So the people that have everything down to a T and are meticulous and are precise about their training and their actions and performance and stepping up in a big game and not getting nervous and being able to recover when they do bad and get the game winning catch or make the game winning throw, like they're the ones that stick around. So it's not that because of them always the most talented. It's because they figured out how to perform under pressure. And that's hard. It's hard to learn that skill.
I think he was saying was like being able to mess up and then recover from that. I forget. I'll have to send
Yeah.
it to you.
I definitely think that's something I missed that I was not good. I don't think I had the mental maturity to be a professional kicker. I think I did okay for college, but wasn't good enough to compete at that level and make a team. So something else I would have trained more on and prepared myself more for if I had a chance to do it over again. But You need to do what you can when at the time with what you know. So,
All right, sir. Well,
all right.
number 2 in the books.